Welcome to the Horse Frog Podcast. I'm Kamran.
And I'm Billy.
Billy, what would you say we do here?
Well, we like to dig deep into a bunch of books and shows and movies that we love.
In excruciating detail, right?
In excruciating detail. And we like to talk about things that we like about them, what they make us think, and what we learn from them. And a lot of times we're going to go off topic, but we're going to bring it back in. Basically, it is just two guys hanging out talking about their favorite stuff. And it's not meant to be a replacement for anything. It's meant to be a companion to anything that we're talking about, any shows, any movies, any books that we're talking about. And we really appreciate you taking the time to be with us today. Hopefully you'll enjoy the show with us.
One final note before we begin the episode. If you would like to support our show, we have a Patreon set up. You can find the link at horsefrogproductions.com. You can also email us with any feedback at contact@horsefrogproductions.com. Depending on the platform you're listening from, it may also be in the episode description. Today, we are covering The Boys, the Amazon Prime show, Season 3, Episode 3. As is tradition, prior to covering episodes of this show, we like to give a little warning. This show is intended for a mature audience and has extreme violence and some scenes of sexual misconduct. If these topics upset you, then we do not recommend you continue listening. The episode begins with a flashback to a Little Miss Hero pageant taking place 17 years ago. Donna is sitting with a young Starlight who is preparing to go on stage. She says, "All right, remember, loose shoulders, let your diaphragm do the rest, and don't tense up when you hit the high notes." Starlight says, "Mom, I can't. It hurts." Donna says, "It's just a little tummy ache." Starlight, still trying to get out of the performance, says, "It's not my tummy, it's my side." Donna says, "What am I going to say to you?" Together, they say, "Pain is weakness leaving the body." Now, I thought her slogan was, "The show must go on." We heard that how many times this season one?
I'm sure. Quite a few of the season 1, 2, yes, from when we did see her, yes. But my thing is, I'm sure she has millions of little slogans to get her through. Male judges masturbating to her underage daughter being sexualized on stage.
Oh man.
I mean, I don't mean to be that gross, but that's about what this is, and that's just gross to me.
Yeah. We'll talk about it in a second. Yeah.
I have a picture for you right there.
Yeah, South Park. Yeah, I remember that episode. Donna says, "That's right. We are winners, and that means we do whatever it takes to win. So you go out there and just keep smiling. Okay, baby?" Starlight says, "All right." She gives a bit of a sad smile. Donna says, "You look beautiful." She touches her makeup up one final time. She kind of brushes on her nose a little bit. We see Starlight's performance on stage. She is singing and dancing to "Baby One More Time" by Britney Spears. She finishes the song up by singing "Hit Me Baby One More Time" and releasing a blast of energy, which causes sparks to shower down from the ceiling. As the crowd is applauding, Starlight is waving with her left hand and smiling. We can see she has her right hand clutched behind her back and she is squeezing hard. This will be important later in the episode. Now, on a side note, I did not care for this promiscuous dancing, especially when it's children of this age. It was already borderline when Britney Spears did it herself when she was 16. Starlight's like, in this clip, she's like 12 maybe, and it's just dancing very provocatively.
Oh, it's almost more uncomfortable to me than the termite incident in episode 1. That kind of stuff is more disturbing to me than that.
Yeah.
Oh, and hey, on an odd side note, I just discovered as we were coming on air is a young girl who was on one of the pageant shows. She's a 16-year-old. Apparently, she may have been killed in an accident. I didn't catch her name, but it's just an odd coincidence. I mean, nothing to do with it doesn't sound like the pageant life, but
this was like a car accident or something, not like some weird.
I guess I just saw that as we came to air, it said maybe an accident. It's like maybe I don't know. So yeah, I'm holding judgment until we hear.
Strange coincidence.
Yeah, very strange coincidence.
Back to present day, Starlight is in the command center at Vought. She is watching a replay of Homelander's speech from his birthday extravaganza on the Vought News Network. We can see she's breathing heavily and has a really worried look on her face. He says, "My whole life, rich people, powerful people tried to muzzle me, cancel me, keep me impotent and obedient like I'm a puppet. You know what? It worked. Starlight turns her head to see Ashley walking by in the hallway. Starlight says, "Hey, Ashley, what's crisis management saying about this?" Ashley has a tablet in her hand and is looking at it. She's walking hurriedly somewhere and does not look at Starlight. She waves to Starlight with her other hand and says, "Sorry, Starlight, not now." Homelander goes on, "And guess what? If they can control me, then you can bet your ass they can control you. They're already doing it. You just don't realize it. I'm done. I'm done apologizing. I'm done being persecuted for my strength." The scene changes, and we see that Homelander is watching the same broadcast in his suite at Vought. He rewinds the video and watches himself say, "Done being persecuted for my strength." He keeps rewinding again and again. We repeatedly hear, "Persecuted for my strength. Persecuted, persecuted, persecuted." We have flashes back and forth between Homelander in person and the one on the screen, building the tension of the scene. We hear Ashley exclaim, "You're up, you're up," as she rapidly walks into the room. Homelander says, "No knock?" We can see that he is out of uniform and lying reclined on his couch, completely naked. And, him complaining about her knocking or her lack of knocking, that's rich coming from him because he never knocks, really. The one time I remember him doing it was when he wanted to enter Stormfront's trailer to get her help in season 2, when he was having issues with his public perception or Q score.
Did you see him sweating watching this stuff? It's kind of sweaty.
So
sweaty looking.
When I was looking at him, I was trying to determine if it was a tear rolling down his cheek, but he did appear to have a sheen on him.
Yeah. Is this like Colonel Kurt's crazy sweats? Because the Homelander, if he's like Superman, Superman can take a stroll around the sun. And so I imagine that, a couple thousand degrees on Earth doesn't really make you break a sweat.
Yeah.
When you're that, it's like, so I don't, but I'm just kind of curious if he's just crazy. Well, we know it's crazy. Never mind. I'm sorry. I retract that. I'll retract that. Okay.
For the Colonel Kurtz reference, let's clear up who that is. So that's the Marlon Brando character from Apocalypse Now, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. For some people might not have seen that movie, so I just thought I might mention it.
Yes. Sorry.
It's okay.
Reference there.
Yeah, it's okay. Ashley sees him on the couch and says, "Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to come back later." She turns to leave. Homelander says, "Wait, what do you mean I'm up?" She says, 21 points with your base. He points at her and stands up. He asks, "What did you just say to me?" She says, 21 points. They loved your speech. A massive 44% uptick with white males in the Rust Belt. Homelander exhales with relief. He gets excited, clutching his fists, and says, "Yes!" She starts laughing and says, "I know." Probably laughing in relief.
Right? She gets to live another day.
Yeah. Again, he exclaims, "Yes, yes." She says, "They're saying you're confident and unapologetic and that you're not afraid to." She doesn't finish the statement. He's standing in front of her and she looks down and sees his reaction to what she's saying. And his reaction is a bodily function,
yes.
of sorts.
Yes. He's pointing at something,
not
using his hands.
Yeah. He gets frustrated and says, "Keep going, Ashley. Don't stop." She says, "I'm sorry, sir." He asks, "What?" She points down. He stammers, "That's got nothing to do with you. Just keep going. Not afraid to what?" She gets it together and says, "Not afraid to be yourself." He's surprised and he has to process this for a moment. He turns away and says, "They want me to be myself?" Ashley says, "Now, you did slip 7 points with the urban area adults, 18 to 34, but it's not bad. It's good because ultimately everybody loves you and Starlight as a team. Together, you have a Q rating of 98%. No one's ever been that high. Not Soldier Boy, not anyone." Homelander has tears in his eyes. He says softly, 98. Ashley looks down again and gasps in surprise. I guess we see really what drives Homelander in this scene.
Yes.
How much he's loved,
popularity,
right?
Yes. How much he's loved is all it is for him.
Now, when there was the episode in season 2 where Huey, and Starlight were driving down into North Carolina to go look up the Liberty backstory. And there were some signs up with Homelander with a Confederate cape and all that kind of stuff. And there's a lot of that rhetoric in that episode. You had mentioned that you read that Homelander was written to represent Trump.
Yes.
When I'm reading what she's talking about after this speech, I'm getting a vibe that they want to paint that same type of picture. Are you picking up on that
Yes.
as well?
It's just straight up. I mean,
Okay.
it's just straight up hatred. I don't think he's that way. I don't believe I don't know when the comics initially came out, so I don't know if in the comics that was initially the role of it, but for television, it is for sure. I mean, it's I read it that straight from Amazon's mouth that
Okay.
this is it.
I was really curious if you read that while they were making this season, because there was a gap in time between when season 2 came out, then when we started covering this stuff, right? It was a couple years.
Yes, we've just blasted through it.
I'm really curious if that interview was while they were making this season, and this
Probably
is
so.
what they were talking about. Interesting.
It could very well be.
We get a nice aerial shot of the Flatiron building that houses the boys' office. This is the triangular building in the city. We can see 2 billboards for Dawn of the Seven on buildings surrounding the Flatiron building. Inside, Butcher is in the restroom. He's suffering the after effects of the V24 that he took. He's retching in the sink and having flashbacks to his fight with gunpowder in the garage. His eyes are glowing intermittently. It doesn't seem like he can control it.
Yeah.
Inside the office, MM is cleaning and sanitizing his desk. He's wearing an NWA shirt, and the song Express Yourself by NWA is playing.
Good song.
I love that he's back with the boys. It was rough seeing him suffering as he struggled against his nature.
Yes, it was. And I'm glad to see him back looking good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I think it's interesting. We just talked about, I think it was on episode 1 of season 3. We were talking about music, and you were talking about how you listen to NWA. That was like one of the bands you listened to.
That's when I kind of like, I know a little bit of their stuff, and that's a great, I don't know it that well. I couldn't have picked it out, but I love that song. It's a great jam.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, it's very up. I love up stuff.
Mm-hmm. We haven't really mentioned this, but MM's t-shirts are pretty sick.
Dude, they're great.
Yeah, he's had some really good shirts over all the, t-shirts. Now that I'm thinking about it, we have not been mentioning his shirts, and we have dropped it's a lot of it is on me as well, because I don't pay attention to rap a whole lot. And he is so traditional rap culture, and I mean old school NWA. I don't know if he's ever had any Eazy-E shirts on, but it's all been Run DMC. I mean, he gave his daughter that big clock. That was the Run DMC reference, right? So I mean, he's great, dude. I love him. I want to say I saw him with a Yankees shirt on one time too.
I think so. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll start paying more attention to MM's shirts. Sorry, Mr. Alonso. MM, we are very sorry. We've been negligent in our job.
I haven't mentioned this, but he plays one of the bad guys in Wrath of Man.
Oh, that's on my list to watch. I need to watch that real quick.
Yeah. And the main bad guy is Scott Eastwood.
Oh.
Yeah.
Nice.
You haven't watched that yet? You need to watch it because it's good.
No, it's on my. You've got it on the list. It's Guy Ritchie. It's Jason Statham, dude. Mm-hmm. It's like all that other stuff's icing on the cake.
Yeah.
How's that? Is Los Alonso great in there?
He's not a super major character, and to me, like, I kind of imprinted him as MM, so like it doesn't really matter that he's a bad guy in that movie, because to me he's MM. Right. You know what I mean? It's like whatever the positive GCE is, it's like. Yeah, sure. And Ryan actually messaged me. Ryan has given us some feedback, and he was talking about, for him and his wife in particular, their case of GCE is Kevin Bacon from The River Wild.
I have not seen that.
Okay, it's a pretty good movie. I saw it in the theater when I was a kid, and the premise is, I believe it's Meryl Streep. She's a seasoned River Rapids.
It's a whitewater movie.
Yeah,
right?
It's a whitewater movie, and they're some type of criminal. I want to say they're bank robbers. It was like 20 years ago I saw this.
Oh, okay. And the only whitewater movie that exists for me is, of course, Deliverance. I'm sorry, continue.
You sure got a pretty mouth.
It's tough. That's a rough one.
Yeah. Yeah. To quote Archer, just the Burt Reynolds with the.
It's so everything about that movie. What is so scary about that is it's like Hostel. To me, it's believable. That can happen to you. You go to the wrong place. You could drop off the map. No one would ever know it.
Yeah, I agree.
So go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, so back to The River Wild. The premise is, she's a seasoned guide for these rapids, and then Kevin Bacon and one of his crew, they need to escape from some bank robbery or something, and this is their method of escape. So that's basically how it goes. But Ryan was saying that to them, they can't really separate Kevin Bacon from that role, and I was surprised, because to me, Kevin Bacon, him in Tremors, is what I kind of imprinted, like as the Kevin Bacon persona.
I don't know why, but it's like, I don't really, most of the stuff that he's in, I don't really watch, but I just love him. I don't know what it is. He's like, just seems like a really cool dude. And I don't know what, so it's kind of like the positives for me. It's a positive GCE. We've talked, is there, I guess we'll have to, is that where we're going to have to start coming up with the delineation between the positive and negative version? Is that how we get stuck with the positive? There can be a positive version of GCE.
Well, I would say it's a color scale. It's either green or red.
Yeah, I guess so.
There's varying degrees. So what would neutral be? Just taupe.
There you go, taupe.
Yeah.
What was it? Oh my goodness, I had it on the tip of my tongue, but I lost it.
Sorry.
Oh man. No, it was one of the great old ones that I've heard. It's basically another one of those tan ones. It was like, I can't remember what it was.
It wasn't mauve, was it? That's more purple.
That's exactly what I was thinking, but it's not mauve though. I just can't come up. But it has to do with the Beetle Bailey comic strip with him, Puce. It's a Puce star. He doesn't get a gold star; he gets a Puce star. I'm like, oh man, there we go.
All right, we need to come up with a graphic for this, and then we'll post it on Instagram on our newly formed Instagram.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
for the newly launched Instagram.
Yeah, so at Horse Frog Productions on Instagram.
It's my first time to ever dabble in Instagram, so be easy with me, folks.
Yeah, we are posting short clips of little highlights from all of our episodes on there. So if the full episode is too much, you can get some of the highlights there.
Yeah, check it out.
Okay. Frenchie is eating a donut covered in powdered sugar while he's watching MM clean. MM looks at Frenchie and says, "I'm gonna be back. You got to police your This is the Flatiron Building. It's a historic mother building. We got to put some respect on the building's name."
So MM must have been listening to the podcast.
That would be awesome.
He's heard your architect nerd. So the Nerdgencia in Los Alonso has reached out to you.
He's breaking the fourth wall.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yep. Frenchie stands up and smiles. He still has half his donut in his hand, and he's waving his hands around as he speaks. He says, "Look at this." MM says, use a plate. Frenchie says, "But I don't use a plate when I eat your mother's sweet and savory vagine." They both laugh. MM notices Kamiko is carving the word into the table. He groans and says, "What is Kamiko doing? Are you kidding me? Come on."
I was paying so much attention to Frenchie and MM having a good time. I thought it said okay in the corner of my eye. I guess I saw was the end of it there.
I thought she was doing her name. And then I went back and I was like, oh, no, this is not her name. Though I can say that my wife had a very nice cherry hardwood desk that the children have been using, and somebody's initials got carved into the front of it.
Does no one know how it happened?
Oh, I know how it happened.
No, I know how it happened, but this is the claim that no one. I don't know. I got it.
Yeah, nobody ever did it. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That's probably one of two references of my children. Where I got another anecdote about the kids later today.
Nice.
That we're gonna bring up. Yep.
I love it.
Frenchie says, "Oh, hey, come on. She's been suffering the dreary sting of ennui. Okay, you give her some space."
And ennui is always one I love because this brings up a Monty Python thing for me, where I woke my parents up laughing at a sketch of theirs. And have you ever seen the Confuse a Cat sketch?
No.
It's the cat is suffering from the fin de siècle, the ennui, which is like the end of an era. So it's like a type of ennui, which is, you're just dissatisfied and sad and kind of depressed and lethargic about everything.
Mm-hmm.
Usually about work more than anything, but apparently that's just kind of like the French reference to, I guess, getting older, worrying about dying or whatever. And so they hire this service to put on this confusing thing. And that's how we re-energize a cat, is he's just lost his confusion. This is why cats are so amazing. So they get him confused and he's great. He's good to go, and they leave. So they fix the cat. So.
Nice. Now they just fix humans.
Right? We can figure out how to do that and send them out. Maybe they just need to be confused. That might help. It keeps you too confused to be focused on what's really going on.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the president in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy.
Yeah. Butcher walks in from the restroom and gets a cup of coffee. Huey then walks in, and everyone in the office stops what they're doing to look at him. MM happily says, "The prodigal son returns." Huey says, "What the Hey, man." MM is laughing, and they embrace each other. I love it. MM is so happy to be back, and he's really happy to see Huey.
Oh, I love it too, man. MM needed this badly, and Huey did too, especially after how bad what has been happening with him in these past 2 episodes.
Yeah.
Now he needs this as well, so it's great to see it. They all kind of get that nice little lift.
Yeah. Short-lived though it may be.
Right.
Huey asks, "Yeah, wait. Are you back?" MM says, "We'll see." Huey says, "Don't get me wrong. I'm happy, but are you sure?" MM grabs Huey's injured hand and turns it over. He says, "What the happened here, kid? You jacking off with razors again?" Huey says, "You should see the other guy." He gives MM a dead stare, then says, "Other guy's my." They both laugh. MM puts his hands on Huey's shoulder and says, "I missed you, kid." Huey says, "I missed you too, man." It warms the soul.
It does.
He pats Huey on the back and says, "Come on, man." Butcher approaches Huey. Huey sighs and says, "Look, I know what you're going to say. And Butcher says, No, mate. I'm just chuffed to have all the boys back under the same roof, all right?" Huey is surprised and asks, "Really?"
I've got to say, as nasty as this gets, this does serve a purpose too. Go ahead.
Butcher says, "Yeah." Then he turns to the rest of the team and mockingly says, "I mean, there he was, right? In his fancy pants, lording over us like the viceroy of Vought Square, eh? And that whole time, he weren't nothing but a soup's bootlick, eh?" Huey smiles and says, "Yeah." Frenchie's cell phone buzzes as he receives a message. Butcher continues, "That, my son, is a Lifetime Achievement Award at the of the Year Awards, isn't it?"
Wow.
Huey says, "Yeah, it is." Butcher says, "Yeah." Huey repeats, it is a lifetime achievement." Butcher laughs. Huey asks, "Are you done?" Butcher says, "No, mate. I'm just getting started. Believe you me."
Yeah.
Huey says, "Great. Listen, we need to get Ryan somewhere safe. Vicky knows where he is because we told her, which means Stan Edgar knows too. Now, all your suspicions are confirmed. Mr. Edgar is basically Sauron at this point. His fingerprints are on everything."
Right. That is scary. He is bigger than Gus ever was, and I will say, well done, Mr. Edgar.
Yeah.
I will give him his Mr. back.
You were predicting this in season 3, episode 1.
Yeah, I felt it for some reason. But it's just, I think it's years of, you're like me, we've watched a lot of stuff. Can I bring up a quick aside on watching stuff and having, this is a learned thing. With my father, we watched a television show together. And it's one of these things where he enjoyed it, but like in the first episode, it's like, so that's like the bad guy. It's like, like 5 seconds into meeting the guy, he's like, so that's the bad guy. I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to try and hide it. It's like, it doesn't ruin anything. I mean, it comes out, but it's just kind of one of those things that, and you know how it is. It's just, we watched a lot.
Yeah. I recently watched The Terminal List on Amazon. And
oh, is that any good?
Yeah, it's really good. It's like a revenge style show.
Nice. Is it sick guys, like guys with cancer or something, or dying men doing like some merc work or something like that?
In a roundabout way that does kind of touch on a couple of the points a little bit. It's Navy SEALs. Okay. Yeah. Something bad happens to them. So the guy's out getting revenge.
Not cool,
and
awesome.
The reason I'm mentioning this now is about halfway through, there was kind of this unknown bad person, because what's happening is the guy is writing a list of the people that have wronged him, and he's checking them off the list as he takes care of them. There was one that was unknown, and about halfway through, I'm like, it can't be this one, and it ended up being that one. I was like, there's no way they're going to do that, and it ended up being that one. I'm not going to say anything because you may figure it out. Actually, I'll be curious if you do watch it. I want to know when you figure that out. So
well, that's that'll be me and KP watched one of the other, what was that other Chris Pratt flick for Amazon? It was very entertaining sci-fi. Yeah, not great.
Was it War of Tomorrow? What was it called? Endless.
Oh,
The
now I'm going to pull
future
it up real
war,
quick.
future war,
Future War. Okay.
something along those lines.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it, like I said, it wasn't great, but it was entertaining because I'm usually entertained by him, and you put him in the right formula. Yeah, it's entertaining. Could you call a bunch of it? Absolutely. But,
This
some,
was a serious role, more like
okay.
his role in Moneyball.
Which I haven't seen that
That's
either.
one of my
So,
favorite movies, which is odd because I don't like baseball, but baseball movies, I do like some of them. That movie in
see,
particular, though, I like.
and I'm not a big sports guy at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't tend to watch any movies pertaining to sports, but I can sometimes watch certain movies if it's presented. Because I think one of the greatest sports movies for me is, of course, Gene Hackman and Hoosiers. Have you ever seen Hoosiers?
No.
Oh, dude, that's about a
Was
small.
it Indiana basketball team? Is that what that was?
Yes, I think it's what. Well, yes, and he's a small. It's one of those tiny towns where they've got just enough guys to make the team, and basketball is the life. But he's also concerned with these guys' future as well.
Mm-hmm.
I would place it in the 40s and 50s because these guys are playing, and then they go to the inner city because these are country boys, and then they go play the inner city guys who really play ball. And so it was something. It's very good film. It's a good family flick too. So It's Gene Hackman, dude. It's great.
Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, Gene Hackman, of course.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Butcher says, "Yeah, one step ahead. Colonel's already done a runner with the boy. They're well out of sight. In fact, we were going to pay them a little visit." MM asks, "We are?" Frenchie has checked his phone and says, Monsieur Charcutier, I cannot go. I have a matter of great importance. Butcher turns to Frenchie and says, "Oh, I'm sorry. I must have forgot to run it by your bleeding secretary." Frenchie says, "It's an emergency." Huey jumps in. I'll go instead. Butcher says, "Nah, you skive off today and that congresswoman might split your pretty little buns." Just like Maeve would.
Well, the question is, which option would you prefer, the Maeve or the Victoria option?
I guess it depends on what type of splitting we're talking about. I don't think I'd prefer either in any context, right. But
I think I need to be. Well, it's like, speaking of GCE, I failed to mention in the Deliverance reference that we made about the pretty mouth. What do you think that poor fellow's GCE was? It was the pretty mouth deliverer.
Was he ever in anything else?
I'm sure he probably was. I haven't dug deep on him, but I'm sure it's probably the same role.
He probably played John Wayne Gacy in some role, and
that's exactly what I'm getting at. It's like that's
some sweaty fat man. He might have been doppelganger for all I know. Might be the same guy.
Oh my goodness, dude.
Yeah.
The sweaty white guy reference is always going to get me because that's a really certain type of really creepy dude for me, man. It's like, have you ever seen 8mm?
Oh, yeah. Talk about movies that make you feel horrible.
You know the sweaty white guy.
I saw that in the theater, man.
Yeah. Oh my word, that's amazing. I would have loved to have seen that in the theater because that movie makes me feel really dirty after watching it.
It was terrible. I felt horrible watching after I walked out of there, man.
There's a lot of sweaty white guys in that movie, dude.
Yeah.
It's like, that's an uncomfortably sweaty white guy movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Enough sweaty white men. Let's move on.
Wait. I have to bring up McGarth. It is sweaty white guy.
Oh, man. All right. This is your last sweaty white guy reference. You're using your last token.
Maybe
Go
not
ahead.
Quite white, but okay. It's in reference to one of the greatest superhero teams in DC. It's called Section 8, and it involves a series of crazy people because a Section 8 is a crazy discharge is a mental discharge from the military. You have Dog Welder, which is one of my all-time favorite people. Did you ever hear me reference Dog Welder? He welds dead dogs to people's faces and stuff like that. It's
when you say weld, what does that entail?
A torch and somehow adhering flesh to flesh somehow. I don't know how he's welding flesh to flesh, but he is. Okay, this is Garth Ennis, mind you, the guy that did The Boys, but the sweaty guy is Bueno Excelente, and Bueno Excelente he fights crime with the powers of perversion, and I'll just leave it at that.
I see.
Yes.
I'm curious, but I don't want to know more. It's a weird mental state to be in. So I'm going to.
I'll send you. I'll put a picture of Section 8 for you, or Bueno Excelente, because it's bad.
Okay. All right.
It won't show it because it's regular DC Comics.
Okay.
But it's bad enough.
All right. Huey says, yeah, thought of that. This is in response to Butcher saying he can't just not go to work because Victoria would notice. Huey turns to Kamiko and says, Kamiko, hi. He has to lean down and get her attention because she's got headphones on. She can't hear him. And it sounds like she's listening to some death metal when she takes them off. We can hear a little bit of it.
Oh.
Yeah. When he has her attention, Huey says, can you please break my arm? Vicky will smell it if I fake being sick, so it's got to be real, and it's got to last for days. Butcher is actually surprised. He laughs and says, hell, yeah. Huey. Frenchie says, at least take something for the pain. I got opium. He immediately throws Huey a pill bottle.
Right.
Just had it on his person, I guess.
Walking pharmacy.
Of course he has it. Love it.
Of course he does.
Huey says, government employees can't fail a piss test, and throws the pill bottle back to Frenchie. He turns to Kamiko and says, let's just get this over with, okay? Just do it pretty fast. MM is looking at Butcher in disbelief. Huey holds out his arm to Kamiko. MM steps in and says, hold on, hold up. Have a seat, please. He grabs a plastic bag and sets it on Huey's lap after he sits down. MM says, only been here 3 minutes, and it's already the bold and the bat.
I think that's a kind of a play on the words of The Brave and the Bold, which was an old DC title, that they just kind of team up. You know, the picture I threw on there is Batman Green Arrow, but it could have been anybody. It could have been Batman and a criminal, or the Joker teaming up, for goodness sake. I mean, that's kind of what the idea of The Brave and the Bold was. You'd have some weird mix-ups.
So it's like a team-up?
It's like a team-up. Except I don't think the criminals in Gotham have an itinerary. I could be wrong.
Okay. Yeah.
They might.
Depends on who they're getting it from. Yeah. Penguin, somebody?
No, that's Bueno Excellent.
No. I mean, who would they get their itinerary from? Penguin?
Oh. That's a good question.
Mm-hmm.
He was a pretty organized fella.
Yeah.
Because it can't be the Joker.
Nah, man.
Joker's too chaotic to be. He's not organized.
Yeah, he'd give people a kids menu or something.
I'd hate to see that guy's filing cabinet, wouldn't you? It's like...
Huey braces himself and says, okay. Kamiko steps in and grabs Huey's shoulder and his wrist. MM sees this and intervenes. He points at Huey's forearm and says, right here, clean break, no permanent damage. This scene just keeps getting better and better as it's going on.
What were you thinking when you laid out the bag? Were you thinking blood or puke or something?
Yeah, blood. I was thinking blood.
That's kind of what I was thinking. I don't know what, but I was like, but Huey, go ahead. It's like, I'm kind of proud of Huey. It's like, wow.
Mm-hmm. Kamiko takes position and nods at Huey. He looks at her and says, yeah, 1, 2. She doesn't wait for 3. After 2, she snaps the arm.
Let's just say the snap too. It folds his arm the way it should not be folded. It's rough.
Right over the edge of the arm of the chair. Just right in the middle of his forearm. Huey screams and says, what the? Butcher raises his eyebrows and takes a sip of coffee. I have to commend Huey's bravery here. He came up with this on his own. He took no painkillers, and he displayed an impressive dedication to the cause. He really has grown since we met him in season 1.
Dude, he's become a true believer in a hard, scary way. And to think that he did this, especially, I would have run personally to avoid having my arm broken like that. But it's at the same time, it's like, maybe if I was going to do that, I don't drink, but I would probably do something. But my word.
Yeah, it was maybe it was a little headstrong. I guess he rushed into it before he could have a second thought, like any doubt.
It's probably it's actually a good solid plan though. I mean, it buys him time off work that's legit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, it's a serious injury.
I wonder what he's going to say he did. Dropped a jar on it or something.
I couldn't open the jar and what? I mean, it was so, yeah.
A clip from American Hero is playing on a TV. Silver Kincaid says, I'm the first super in a hijab, aren't I? So if I can get myself into the 7, lit, man. I'd have preferred to hear how she would benefit the team as a soup, not as an identity.
Yes. Well, at least we didn't go to the pronouns, I guess. So my brain hurts thinking about that stuff.
I mean, they should have had him on screen.
Yeah.
At the bottom.
Yeah. Yeah, they may hide, but maybe beneath what we could see. But
Yeah, they on the bottom of the screen they actually do list her powers, which include telepathy and telekinesis, and her age is listed as 26 years old.
Okay.
The clowns Seth and Evan from marketing are in a production room for American Hero and are discussing the remaining contestants with Ashley and Starlight. They have a board listing all the contestants from the show, including those already eliminated. We can see some of the ones that were already sent home. Lightspeed from Scottsdale, Arizona. Critter from Tallahassee, Florida. I was like, how could you have them from anywhere else but Florida? You know? Flamer from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Is this the guy in the uncomfortable adult DVDs that Lamplighter was watching with Huey?
I couldn't see the picture very well. It took me a couple scenes to even be able to make this up. I didn't put the Philadelphia connection together with that, so that was interesting.
No. It was just a joke.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
I was just being facetious and gross.
Oh, okay. I'm curious. I wonder if that was supposed to be translucent.
No. I have no idea. That was an odd image that I don't wish to look at again. That almost looked like a pinhead kind of the way ahead is what I kind of remember. It's odd.
I need to go back and review that so I can.
When I get a big pause, when I'm not going to talk in a bit, I'll try and go back.
I'm joking. I'm joking.
Okay.
Nubia from Atlanta, Georgia, is the last one that we see.
All right.
I wonder if there's any connection to Nubian Prince.
Could be. He was supposed to go to Detroit.
He was supposed to go to Baltimore. He's currently in Detroit.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess that deal never went through because the mayor's plane sank in season 1.
Well, maybe the next mayor or whoever filled in for the mayor signed that contract.
Maybe.
Yeah. We never got a follow up on that.
No.
Seth says, so we're thinking slot 1 goes to Supersonic. For girls 11 to 14, he's a real panty dropper. That's quite the choice of words there, Seth. I mean,
that is nasty.
Yeah. Starlight says, that's horrifying. Please never say that again. Seth says, he's also a slam dunk for the Latinx market. We are desperate to get into Central and South America.
I've been seeing that and was really unaware of what that was. You can go into that, I guess, because you're going to break it down here.
Okay. So Ashley, as always, is eating up this presentation, and particularly, is using all the buzzwords she likes. I want to make a side note on this Latinx thing. Polls of the Latino population from Pew Research indicate the following. 76% of the Latino community haven't ever heard of this term. 20% have heard of it and choose not to use it. 3% use it to describe themselves. Among respondents that have heard this term, 65% said it should not be used to describe them, while 33% said it should be used to describe them. The poll was conducted on March 23rd of 2019. The polls are also further broken down into age, education level, whether they're U.S. or foreign born, things of that nature. If you're interested in learning more, I encourage you to read the article. It's interesting. One final note, Latino, Latina, and Hispanic still dominate the Google search trends. All of these are used considerably more frequently than Latinx.
There you go.
Yep.
The more you know.
So long story short, nobody wants to hear it, but people keep trying to push it.
Nobody wants to hear it. Yep.
Evan jumps in and asks, did you know that salsa is more popular than ketchup?
And that is a true fact.
I believe that. I mean,
yeah, salsa rocks, dude.
You don't put ketchup on a freaking taco. And I can tell you, I eat tacos a hell of a lot more than I eat hot dogs.
Yes, I do. I tell you, that's the only problem here, though, is that any tacos here, it's different, man. We don't have it. I don't have good access to taquerias in this town. And the ones that are, they close early.
I don't see how that's possible.
I don't either. It's very unnerving.
Yeah.
It's bothersome to me.
Mm-hmm. Seth says, is Supersonic an ambitious second-generation Mexican-American chasing his lifelong sueño of joining the Seven? Sueño translates to sleep. I assume in Mexico it's used like we use dream in the U.S.
That would be my assumption, yeah. I know that Spanish is very contextual, correct? I mean, it's like kind of a lot of where the word is can be a lot of extra meaning to it, I think, too.
I don't know enough about it to speak with any knowledge.
Okay. I know enough to say that I shouldn't be saying anything.
I do surprise myself with how many words I know. I guess just I've always lived in the Southwest, whether it was California, Arizona, or Texas. So, well, Texas isn't Southwest, but yeah, always something on the Mexican border for the most part.
Right there. Yeah, exactly. Mm. So yeah, you pick up a little bit more. You pick up a lot more than you realize.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Evan finishes Seth's thought. That's a hard thing to say.
It's a hard thing
Evan
to say.
finishes the thought, or is he chasing a rekindled passion with Starlight? Starlight says, okay, you do know that I have a boyfriend, right? Seth says, love triangles. They generate a 47% surge in trending topics on social platforms. Ashley and also Ashley are both nodding. Evan says, fans will ship the out of you. Seth chuckles. Starlight stands up and says, let me talk to him first. Seth says, amazing. What do you think of our second choice? He points at the board and Evan says, Moonshadow. Seth says, she's body positive, but not too body positive. Man, I love it. You can't even have people that are even remotely in shape anymore.
I know it. It's terrible. To go back to something that was said earlier about the shipping. Mm-hmm. Were you familiar with this?
Yes, because term? Okay, so going back to that abomination of a movie, The Last Jedi, they were talking about shipping Rey and Kylo Ren and all that nonsense. So yes, I am aware.
What does that mean? I mean, when
the stands want to like fantasize about characters getting in relationships.
Is that why we have? Does that explain more closely to me the Tweak X Craig episode of South Park?
Probably, yeah.
Because I didn't really quite get what was going on there. Mm-hmm. I mean, that was some of those jokes are a couple of years ahead of my time, man. South Park, those guys are amazing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, because I could never get quite a satisfactory response, but thank you. Okay, that's.
I'm not an expert on it, but I mean, I get the context of it.
You are more in touch with the younger generation than I
am. That's pushing it.
Well,
I mean, I'm 41, dude. What do I know what Zoomers are doing?
They abide in the same vicinity as you. Okay. So it's like you, by your very nature, as you absorb some things through osmosis. So
okay.
That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I do enjoy seeing some of the memes that my kids are seeing. So memes are great, man. Yeah. There's some funny people out there.
I mean, I stay so I don't stay far away. I just don't pay attention to it. I've only recently become a YouTube guy. Mm-hmm. I mean, like if you look at my history, it wasn't until the last 8 months of Fry's existence that I really got onto it because we would get so quiet at that job, and my job was watching cameras, and there was nobody to watch, and this includes associates. And we'd sit there and we'd be on YouTube all day. It's because that's all we had to do. So I didn't really hit it hard to that last bit right before the end.
Mm-hmm. Did you dive deeply into the depths of the YouTube algorithm? Did you mine deep and too far, like in the mines of Moria?
No, I just chased my stuff. No, I just chased the stuff that intrigued me, and I'm surprised that there's things that intrigue me as much as they do. There's content for everybody. That's a fact, and so I'm like, okay, cool. So more like I said, more on the Christian apologetic philosophy side. There's tons of that stuff out there. So. Yeah. I watch it, I watched that till I can't, because some of that stuff's a bit over my pay grade, and I consider myself fairly intelligent, but philosophy, it is teach you just enough to mess you up for the rest of your life there.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're talking about Moonshadow and how she's body positive, but not too body positive. Evan says, still able. Also, Ashley says, so able. Ashley turns to her and says, no one asked you, Ashley. Also, Ashley looks down ashamedly and says, sorry, Ashley. Completely unnecessary character this season. I don't know why she's there. Just to annoy us.
To make you more annoyed by Ashley.
Yeah, I mean, you get Seth, Evan, Ashley, and also Ashley in a room. How could they get worse? What would it be?
Now, another question, because another thing I've only recently become aware of, I'm just showing what a true pleb I am in the Neo speak of our generation is Karens.
You never heard about Karens before? until recently.
Karens is really new to me,
Okay,
dude.
interesting.
That's how out of touch I am. I mean, so is Ashley a Karen?
I haven't seen her.
Is
No,
a Karen bossy? Is that specifically what the Karens are expressing their rights in front of other people
how would I
in
best
their
describe a
neighborhood?
Karen? A Karen is in front of you in the grocery store, and she is just being to the cashier for no
Oh,
apparent reason. Maybe a
okay.
coupon is expired, and the
Right.
cashier is telling her the coupon's expired, or you got the wrong size bag of chips to go with this coupon, and Karen
Right.
is making a scene for no reason.
Okay. Okay.
That's a
Nice.
Karen.
Okay. That's a Karen.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. I'm learning a lot today. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, I had only recently, I mean, recently, I'm talking about like in the past months. Like it's not been years that I've become aware of Karens. It's like months. So
You know what's funny is now that Karen is such a stigmatized name, I was in Costco on Saturday, and as I was leaving, I saw one of the ladies that's they sit by the exit selling solar panels for your home or air conditioners for your home or that kind of stuff. Her name was Karen. And I was just,
of course,
poor
I have
poor
one at my
lady.
job too.
I was like,
Yeah.
it's
She's a real sweet lady.
just being caught in the tides of fate. The unfortunate, I mean, they did nothing wrong except just being
wrong name,
born
wrong time,
at
apparently.
a time when that name was popular, and somebody had to go out there and act in a certain
60s,
way
70s.
that ruined it for everybody named Karen from then on.
Yeah.
It's like...
And you know what? It's probably not even someone named Karen.
You think so?
I don't know.
What do you think their name would have been? What was the first Karen's name?
Are we throwing this to the audience? Are you like
just off the top of your head? Who do you think? What do you think the first Karen's name would be?
I'm gonna ask. I'm throwing this out wide, because it's going to be on the internet. You've never thought of it. Oh, wait, it's not auto completing. Who is the first Karen? Are we the first people to ask this? How the Karen meme confronts history of white womanhood. Okay. I don't know. I'll have to dig too deep into this.
It's an instinctual response. Like,
okay,
I guess you haven't really.
Who's my first Karen?
No, I mean, like when you think of the name of the woman that first acted in a way that made someone want to come up with Karen. What is the first name that comes to your mind?
I don't know. I have no idea. In all honesty, I should, but it's like I don't know. Is it our vice president? Am I over the line on that one?
No, I don't think it was somebody named, because that's the only time I've ever heard her name.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean Karen? That was actually named Karen?
No, like so. The supposition was the first Karen actually named Karen, and you said probably not. Right. And I was like, okay, the person that had that
I have no idea. I'm just throwing that out there. I mean, maybe it was maybe it was a Karen.
The exercise I'm going after is like, okay, when you think of a stripper name, what do you think of?
Right.
Crystal,
like Destiny, and Vanity.
Chastity.
It's not Crystal. It'd be Cristal. Yeah, Chastity is. Chastity is the other one. Yes, thank you.
All right, so I mean that's when
any of the Y right. name.
So it's a similar.
It's an I with a heart. Is it I with hearts over the top?
All right. Well,
Misty's. Sorry. I'm so sorry.
We'll move on.
Move along. Yeah. We're not trying to offend anybody. This is a joke.
Yeah, I was hoping to get a name out of you, but
I don't know.
Yeah.
I can't really think of people that imprinted me that much. And like women I dislike. Actresses, but but they're actresses. What do you expect, man?
Yeah.
It's like my mother always said, they're just Hollywood people. They don't know any better, hon.
Yeah. Starlight says, okay, that's also horrifying, but I'm thinking Silver Kincaid. Ashley unsuredly says, but she's from Afghanistan. I love the hypocrisy. She's woke as long as it serves her needs, and then it's like, but my job, and like this is not suiting what I need, so let's go a different direction.
Well, let's face it, she does work directly for the Homelander. So he's very volatile this season. So I don't blame her for being like, It's like as much as,
okay. She's like, trying to save her life. and be woke.
Yes.
How can I be woke within
yes.
this?
While preserving my own life? It's pretty impossible. So,
Yeah.
it's okay, Ashley. We understand.
Starlight says she's from England and she has the highest rescue stats of any of the finalists, and she's a UNICEF ambassador. She's the most qualified. And when I heard all this, I was like, and why wasn't this what Silver Kincaid was saying why she should be in the 7 when they showed her at the beginning of this scene? That's what you lead with, not, oh, this is my identity or this is my intersectionality. It's like, it's just, these are the qualifications and why I'm most qualified to be in this position,
Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
And maybe that is part of the satire, is that her real qualifications are listed as an aside while she lists that, well, I wear a hijab. It's like, well, good for you. I'm glad you wear a hijab. Maybe I wear a yarmulke. I don't, but I mean, it's like, I don't care what you wear.
What would your hero name be if you were focusing on being a Jewish centric superhero?
Dude, you know who it would be, don't you? It's the Hammer.
Oh, wait, the Hammer. Wait, which
dude? Judah the Hammer Maccabee. That's the Maccabees are the apocryphal writings, which are books that we do not believe belongs in Scripture, but some people think it does.
Okay.
They're more historical ancient books, and I agree that they serve this purpose. But he was one of the Maccabees. He's one of the judges. And the Jewish judges, dude, those guys were some pretty deep. And I don't know a lot about. I haven't read too much of Maccabees because it's not in the traditional Bible. I have to buy a Catholic Bible or something from the English for the Anglican Church, a revised standard, which I have some. But you can tell it's not Scripture. It reads different. But they are historical, and these were guys that kind of have resisted the Romans in these time periods. So Judah Maccabee, I never saw the movie, but then their movie called The Hebrew Hammer.
I don't know if there was a movie, but that sounds familiar.
With the Hammer, it's like, Judah Maccabee. He's even in a comic book that I read from it's in a third-party comic group called First Comics, and his name was Dark Horse. Now owns this character, but he's Judah Maccabee. He's the Hammer. I mean, so when I think of Jewish dudes, I think of that, and there's a couple other these judges that were some crazy that killed a bunch of folks single-handedly kind of deal.
So the Jewish superhero would be Judah the Hammer, and he'd be wearing judge
or Samson. I mean, or think about Samson. I mean, Samson's your strong guy. He's the original strong dude. You know the story about Samson?
Yeah.
He killed like a.
Yeah, but didn't he get his hair cut off? And
yeah.
Okay.
But I'm saying before that, but he gave up the secret. He knew how to. But he had this. He was granted strength. Very strong fellow, and killed a couple, I forget how many thousand. He killed at least 1,000 fellows with the jawbone of an ass.
Oh wow!
Just as his weapon.
Wow.
Yeah. So like a field, that just kind of single-handedly did that. Was one of the things he did. He was never a good guy. I mean, he was an example of how not to live your life while you're supposed to be doing the right thing. But we believe he's a real guy. I mean, I believe but Samson is your traditional, strong guy. Yeah. He picked up city gates. They locked him in his city, and he took the gates off the hinges and took off with the gates.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right.
Jewish. So there we go. Sorry. Two superhero names: the Hammer and
I like
Samson.
Judah the Hammer. We'll go with that one.
Judah the Hammer's great, dude. I love it.
Wearing judges' robes.
Yes.
Ashley says, "Well, we're gonna have to run all this past Homelander, of course." Also, Ashley parrots, "Of course." Starlight says, "Actually, according to my contract with Mr. Edgar, I get final say over the 2 slots." Ashley chuckles uncomfortably. Starlight continues, "So why don't you run that past Homelander?" Ashley's grin fades. Frenchie is meeting Cherie in a park. When she sees him, she gets up and gives him a hug. He does not reciprocate. He only half puts one arm around her. He greets her saying, "Bonjour, Cherie." She relinquishes the hug and reaches for his jacket pocket. She asks, "Did you bring the passports?" He hands her a package. She begins panting and begins opening the package as she moves to sit on the park bench. When she inspects the contents of the package, she chuckles and cries. Frenchie grabs her chin and raises her face. He says, "Hey, what's wrong?" She says, "Serge, I up. I went back to work for little Nina." He says, "Merde, Cherie." She says, "Some of us can't get cushy jobs at the CIA." What? Wow, real cushy. The things Frenchie's had to do.
Right.
She says, "I was moving weight for her, and these assholes boosted it." He asks, "Can you find them?" She says, "They wore masks. I don't know who they were, and I was high." Of course she was high. What would you do if you had a friend that was a drug addict that kept getting in trouble?
See, in the past, I've not seen her as an unreliable person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know if that's more of a critique on Frenchie being more of a screw up than she is, because I've kind of seen her as together. So I didn't know if she was using. I mean, I know that she was when they first met because Jay, her boyfriend,
Mm-hmm.
killed himself, which people usually go down that road, usually wind up doing that if they're not careful.
Mm-hmm.
But so I wasn't sure if she still was a user or not.
Mm.
I thought she was two together.
Okay.
I was kind of I was kind of surprised by this reveal. I don't know why I was surprised by her saying that.
Okay. But outside of that, let's say you have a friend that is a drug addict and keeps getting in trouble.
Yeah,
Do you like, what is the right thing to do in those cases?
you got to cut them loose. I mean, you tell them you love them, but they got to get help themselves,
Mm-hmm.
and you can or they got to want help. But it's like until you do it, I got to cut you loose, dude.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean I don't love you,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like I can't be pulled down by
Yeah,
that.
I can't
mess.
have that stuff. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Frenchie sits down and says, "Okay, how much?" She responds, 11 kilos.
Apparently, this little Nina character
Mm-hmm.
I saw through X-Ray as somebody that's very highly anticipated because she's apparently a really nasty villain in the comics. So I think everyone's pretty excited by this, apparently.
Okay. I mean, she's super intimidating.
I like her.
Yeah. Frenchie nods and says, we pay her back. We pay her back. We beg. Cherie says, no. You know it's the principle of the thing with Nina. You remember Olivier? How many pieces did she cut off him while he was still alive? She shudders, then puts a hand on the side of Frenchie's face. She says, come with me. We can go someplace warm. Just you and me, huh? Frenchie looks like he's struggling. He takes her hand and removes it from his face. He says sorry and puts her hand on top of the passports. She nods and puts her hand back on his face and gives him a kiss. She lovingly pets his head, then gets up and leaves. That had to be tough for him to say bye like that.
Oh, that would be awful. They've been through so much together. We know that they're like those crazy drugstore cowboy types.
Mm-hmm.
And I love his inventiveness. Like when they showed his flashback where he met Mallory when he was the Xanax bomb.
Mm-hmm.
For the rage guy, that's too funny. I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's way smarter than these people. But yeah, it's hard. They were obviously very close, lovers, occasionally, and more. I'm assuming so.
Yep. Butcher, Huey, and MM pull up to a house. It looks a bit run down, and the grounds are unkempt. Kamiko's with them as well. Yes. Mallory comes out of the house and sees MM. She says, "Oh, Marvin, what are you doing here?" He responds, "Poor judgment, ma'am." Ryan runs out of the house and excitedly says, "Butcher." Butcher chuckles and greets him. Ryan gives him a big hug. Butcher says, Oh, easy does it, lad. Bloody death grip you got there." Ryan looks at him suspiciously and asks, "Are you okay?" Butcher says, "Yeah, right as rain." Mallory says, "Come on in." She doesn't look happy to see him. MM looks at Huey and says, "The was that? Didn't know he had it in him."
It's got to be strange for them to see him being nice.
Yeah, nurturing.
Mm-hmm. Not even just nice, but yeah, sweet. There's like, what?
Yeah.
You're the one that said that like, wait, what? When it's completely opposite of your character.
Uncle Butcher.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Uncle Butcher.
Huey doesn't respond. Instead, he asks, "So why did you come back?" MM takes a moment, then says, "Soldier Boy killed my family." He walks into the house. Huey appears to be in shock after he hears that. Butcher asks Mallory, "Are you sure this place is secure?" Mallory says, "We'll have to keep moving, but for now, yes. The only thing that might give us away is this clown show of yours shambling onto my driveway."
Right.
Butcher chuckles and says, "Well, I wouldn't be here if this was just a phone call." He walks into the house. Mallory watches him as he walks away. She seems concerned about the nature of the visit. Back to the American Heroes set. Supersonic is walking down the hallway when Starlight pokes her head out of a room and says, "Hey, Alex, just come here for a second." He greets her, then enters the room. Starlight turns on a Vought Bluetooth speaker, and it begins playing Rock My Kiss by Supersweet. There's a painting of Maeve in the background holding up a sword. There's a rainbow behind her. I guess this is a depiction of Brave Maeve.
I'm not even laughing at that. I'm laughing at this super sweet. All I can ever think about is Carmen. Super sweet, super sweet. It's super sweet. So, Brave Maeve's bad enough, but super sweet's going. I'm laughing more at that than I am at Brave Maeve because I feel so terrible for Maeve, who's now branded as Brave Maeve. Now she's no longer just Maeve.
Right. Supersonic says, why are you playing my song? She says, so he can't hear us. They want to pick you as one of the winners tonight. He asks, are you serious? She says, mm-hmm. And you just say no. He's confused. He asks, what? Why? She says, okay, listen. I really wish someone told me what I'm about to tell you. There's something wrong with Homelander. Something broken. He's threatened to murder me more than once. He's murdered other people, and it's only getting worse. And you're just going to be putting yourself and your family in danger, and pretty much the rest of them too. They're so f***ing cruel. Trust me, you don't want this.
And he's seen this. He saw the speech.
He saw the speech, and Homelander, when he met him, he made that racist comment to him.
Yes, very ugly remark. And it was like, so yeah, it's like, that's just the tip of the iceberg. You ain't even in the 7.
Mm-hmm.
You ought to listen to her. You need to listen to her.
Yeah. Well, I mean, his whole life, you have to think of it from the perspective of somebody that has given their whole life. They have their dream within reach, and then to have somebody tell them you don't want it, it's got to be mind-bending, right? Where you're just what else would I do?
Well, even seeing it, I mean, but what is he thinking? Yeah, and what is he thinking when he sees this behavior? I mean, do you just play that off? It's like, well, that's just because they're under a lot of pressure. This is just normal. People are under a lot of pressure all the time. How do you just? I mean, it's okay to forgive someone and let them make those comments to you, but to not see that,
I don't think he's forgiven him. I think he just has to tolerate it because he assumes that's just the way he is.
Yeah, and it's going to be that way for him if he steps into here. So, okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm just curious if he's just, okay. I'll bring up something else about him later on. So,
all right. As Starlight's giving this whole speech to him, she's speaking faster and faster. He begins to try to say something, but she keeps going. Just say that you can't do it. Say that your family is having an emergency. Don't do it. He says, Annie, stop. Annie, stop. You just told me that all the I swallowed for years. I mean, the ban, Vought's racism. It's all for nothing. Right? She says, look, he interrupts saying, look, I need a second. She says, I'm really sorry, but please, you need to promise me that you will leave and you'll never look back. Please. Now, this was an incredibly dramatic scene. And I love that as it's playing, Rock My Kiss is playing in the background the whole time. It's completely undermining the feel of the scene, on the topic of music and how it affects the mood of a scene.
Yes.
The scene ends with the lyrics in the song, kick off those Uggs and slide up next to me, all right? It's like...
it is. It's such a serious thing. And the music is almost jarring. And I don't know but I paid a lot of attention. And sometimes the music in certain episodes stands out in particular for me. And this is one of those music where the music stands out. And not necessarily, I don't mean like Super Sweet's song, but I just mean just the music, the use of music, how it's way more sinister, way more atonal and strange, and just really has a sinister overtone to it in almost everything. Because and we'll play that up some more as later on as we get into this. But I'm just really, this episode in particular, I hadn't seen it in a while, and I think it's maybe because everything is coming together. I've seen so much of everything in this episode. It's such a great episode. I love this episode.
You loved it?
I did, for some reason. I don't know why I liked it so much. It's odd. It's disturbing. It has some really crazy stuff to it, but it's like it's also I think it's a big reveal on Homelander. So I'm happy that we get anything we can kind of with him. So I'm pretty happy with the progression of him being just his ever loving mind.
On the topic of the music use in this episode, virtually every scene with Homelander has that going on, that ominous build of, it is getting bad.
It is. And but the other thing but what I'm getting at, and it's not just the music, it's the fact that everything starts sliding off tone every time he's on frame. Everything is normal. It's kind of normal music that you get in any show. And then when he hits the scene and starts talking, it's like you hear it slide a little one way or the other, a little sharp, a little flat, a little off. It's odd and unsettling. And it's because it's wrong. It strikes your ears wrong. It's that way on purpose, but it's beautifully done. However they're doing it, it's because it makes you, I think we're starting to see how twisted his worldview is. It's so twisted, it even warps us as we listen to it,
I guess I'm not trained enough to be able to pick that stuff out.
I don't normally pick that stuff out. It's just there's something about it that I'm usually not able to say why it impacts me so much, but something about talking with you these past several weeks has allowed me to express myself a little bit better, at least on things I know.
Okay.
And music's one thing I like a little bit. It's made me a little more comfortable talking about it, I guess. I didn't realize I knew some of this stuff or was able, it's just things that hit with me.
Yeah. Yeah. Whenever you start talking about music, this is, that's your jam.
It is my jam.
Yeah. Outside of Aquaman.
Right? Hey, I'm an Aquaman stan, unapologetically, apparently.
Are you shipping him with anybody right now?
I've always wanted to ship him with Wonder Woman, in all honesty. They do that off and on in some alternate histories, yes.
Why?
Because they're both royalty. They're actually of royal lineage, and and it makes perfect sense. They're both long-lived. And the Amazons and the Atlantean stayed place. They run the planet easily. They take over real quick.
Okay.
I mean, they had to fight. If Superman wasn't involved, Superman keeps a lot of this stuff from happening. Superman's absence, bad things like that happen. I mean, bad things happen from good people. So he keeps a lot of. He's kind of like he's like an avatar of goodness. He's like a lawful good avatar. I think it's really a good way of looking at him. I never thought about that before, but he's an avatar. Lately, I've been reading that, so it's like, oh, there you go. I'll just put it there.
Okay.
Poorly written. I agree. Still could be. It doesn't mean. I mean, again, I agree. He needs to be better written. He may be better written now. I haven't read Superman in 20-something years now. I have no idea. Everything I read is always so off-center anyhow.
Okay. A-Train is walking out of a global wellness medical imaging center. He's wearing his new outfit. His brother Nathan is waiting for him. He says, "So they chauffeuring you around now, huh? Like you Rihanna." A-Train says, "Never needed a license. Always just ran." "How'd you know I'd be here?" Nathan says, "I'm your brother, and I still know a few people. So, how bad is it?" A-Train tells him, "Doctors say it's like playing Russian roulette. If I ever run again, maybe nothing, but maybe my heart." He mimics an explosion with his hands. Nathan asks, "You still on that blue shit?" A-Train says, "That will probably kill me even faster." Nathan says, "Good. Then we can skip to the part where I accept your apology and you can come back to the crib with me. Sure, the boys would love to see you, man." Nathan holds out his hand and A-Train walks up and takes it. Then they embrace each other. I like to see them make up. Nathan's a really decent guy, and I didn't enjoy seeing A-Train treating him the way he did at the height of his addict behavior.
I agree. And I'm like you. I like that whole scene. I especially like that line there. Listen, so why don't we just skip to the part where I accept your apology? Come on back. I love it. Come on home with me. I love that. That's great.
That's a big move.
That's a big move.
Yeah. That's a big brother taking care of him.
Yeah.
Kamiko and Ryan are playing Connect 4 on the front porch of the safe house. Kamiko puts a checker in the grid. "I would like to thank you, Billy, again for instructing me on the specifics of this timeless classic."
I live for that stuff. Excruciating minutia is my middle name. And I mean, seriously, my parents have a sick sense of humor. So.
Ryan makes his move in the game and says, "Butcher said you have powers." Kamiko nods, then she makes her move. Ryan says, "Me too." He makes his next move, then asks, "Do you like yours?" She shakes her head. He asks, "Do you ever get scared of them?" She nods. He reaches for another checker and says, "Me too." He makes another move. They skipped one of her turns, by the way.
I noticed. Yeah. You snooze, you lose, man. Ryan's merciless.
I think he's a little preoccupied. Ryan says, "Aunt Grace wanted to get me a dog, but I told her no. I was afraid I'd hurt it." Kamiko smiles sadly, then gets out her phone and types, "I know what you mean. I've hurt people." He says, "I'm sure you didn't mean it." She types, "I hate my powers. I wish I never had them." Ryan says, "Yeah, me too." Kamiko gives him a sad smile. I think they both needed this conversation. They're the only two that can really relate to this situation that they find themselves in.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. These are the class of superheroes that you put. There are I don't mean like in the physical class. There are also reasons why people are driven to be heroes, and these are unwanted powers heroes right now. It's like whether or not they're doing good with them or not, they see them as unwanted, and they're driven by that.
Mm-hmm.
Especially think about them both. They've both killed people. I mean, she killed people, and she's kind of feral. I mean, I get it. And whatever happened with her, but Ryan, you got to feel terrible for him because when he finally cuts loose, I mean, it's so powerful. Like we talked about, like the baby snake not controlling himself. I mean, he cuts Stormfront to pieces, not apparently physically, and accidentally kills his mama.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's a cyborg moment there. That's one of those moments, that's how you became how you are, is, the accident that you threw a fit and killed your mama and became cyborg.
Yeah. Trying to save your mom.
Yeah. Well, no, actually, Cyborg was different. He wasn't trying to save his mama.
No, I'm just saying that's what Ryan was doing.
Yeah, that's what Ryan was doing. Absolutely. Yeah. And he was tough though. But I'm still amazed.
What was the Cyborg storyline with his mom?
I forget exactly why, but they were arguing. She was a scientist in a lab, and her husband also is like the founder of Star Labs in the DC universe. And he, in a fit of anger, swipes a boatload of chemicals off of her desk, and it causes an explosion, killing her and burning off his face and blowing off most of his body. But they actually showed that in that Snyder cut too pretty well. They showed him getting kind of quickly what was left of him.
Mm-hmm. Inside the house, Mallory says, Newman's head of the bureau because I said so. I tried to save her from the attack on Congress that she caused. Huey says, well, at least you didn't spend the last year getting her oat milk lattes and every piece of intel she asked for. Mallory says, I would very much like to know the plan to eliminate her. Butcher says, well, that depends on what you can tell us about your little holiday down in Nicaragua. Mallory says, I've never been to Nicaragua. Butcher says, really? Because a little birdie told me you were Payback's case officer down there on a classified job that Soldier Boy never come back from. Mallory scoffs. Says, Colonel? Mallory says, whatever it is William thinks he may have heard, he's mistaken, and walks to a window, then looks outside with a 1,000-yard stare. Butcher slowly approaches Mallory and says, Izzy, you know that safe you got in your home office? The one behind the picture of Bush #1? Well, I borrowed a ledger from it. The one with all your assets around the world. How long do you think them and their families will last when I put every one of their names on Facebook? Side note here, this mention of George Bush #1, a painting of it. There's somebody in my neighborhood, like when I'm riding my bike, they'll have their garage door open, and they have a painting of George Bush Jr.
Nice.
On the wall in the garage, along with one other president. I don't know what it is, but I'm like, why do you have this in your garage? Of all places, it's like, what is this doing in here? It's not it's not a poster. It's not a man cave. It's like it's like a normal garage. It's
okay.
I mean, it's just weird.
Oh.
Yeah, so
maybe he just wants the world to know what he thinks. He's like, I love these guys, man.
Yeah, I just think he doesn't have anywhere better to put it. Probably got it from somebody or something. Yeah,
garage sale.
Yeah.
His wife sold it at a garage sale, is what it is, and he bought it back for $0.25. He has to keep it in the garage.
Mallory asks, you'd sign the death warrants of dozens of innocent people who had nothing to do with this? Butcher responds, I'm embarrassed for the both of us that you're asking. Man.
He's a bad dude.
Mm-hmm. Mallory says, Nicaragua's ancient history, not to mention I could be killed just for telling you. Butcher says, and all your agents will get killed if you don't. Blimey, what a pickle. Butcher sets a chair down facing Mallory and sits down. After a pause, Mallory says, it was part of Operation Charlie. And Butcher look at each other. Huey asks, Operation Charlie? Mallory says, Reagan's pet project, off the books. Help the Contra rebels fight the Russian-backed Sandinistas. But we needed a way to pay for it. Some of the cash came from selling arms to Iran. Oliver North's epic up. Stands up and begins pacing. We are taken to a flashback to a young Mallory in a tent with a bunch of Central American people packing cocaine into wooden crates. We see a man spray paint a wooden crate with a logo for Black Noir Dark Roast 100% Colombian coffee beans. There's a picture of a ninja on top of the logo. Mallory says, but the rest, if there's one thing that the Contras had plenty of, It was cocaine. I was in charge of trafficking the coke into the U.S. and then using the profits to buy more weapons. In the fight against the Reds, whatever it took. MM says, that's some self-justifying bull. Were you part of that other thing too? Huey asks, what other thing? MM says, she knows. Tell him. Mallory looks down for a moment and says, the unwritten policy was to sell the cocaine strictly to minority neighborhoods, destabilize, demoralize, while staying out of white ones. MM has a sneer on his face. I feel bad for him. He was so happy to be back, and now this dirty little secret is really hurting him. He respected Mallory, and to find out she was involved in this seriously erodes his trust or loyalty to her.
Yeah, it would. And it'd be really hard. And, you know, I asked a question here, but then I kind of worked it through myself. I was starting to ask, do you think that MM is like the only normal, and I don't mean like aside from his OCD text or anything like that, but, you know, Surge / Frenchie is a criminal, and Butcher, man, there's a guy with that kind of temper can't not have gotten in trouble constantly.
Mm-hmm.
You know, military or not, we know that there's a lot of those fellas in the military that constantly get in trouble and kicked out because of that aggression.
Mm-hmm.
And that may be why he's on a secret team where a heavy-handed fellow might be necessary. But, you know, but then you look back on it, and Kimiko, Huey, and MM are all victims of Vought, though. And Frenchie's just kind of crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But those three are victims to me, and not in a way, but they are. I mean, we know for a fact that those three are victims.
Butcher's a victim as well.
Yeah, he is a victim.
Mm-hmm.
That's very much true.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're all like they're a Walking Dead group.
Yeah.
They're the Walking Wounded.
So the only one that's not a victim is Frenchie.
He's just crazy.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
He's our wild card.
Mm-hmm.
He's our loyal wild card, but he's our wild card.
Yeah. Mallory pauses, then goes on. Late in 84, we were gearing up for a major offensive. So the higher-ups, in their infinite wisdom, decided it was the perfect time to throw a wrench in the works. We are treated to Rock You Like a Hurricane by the Scorpions. I love the Scorpions, man. That's one of the few bands I've seen live.
Nice. I knew the album Blackout. I can't remember if that was the album that was from.
I don't know the names of the albums. I just download. I mean, because I found them like
song, though.
Yeah, I found them after MP3s were a thing, so I wasn't like buying CDs at that point, you know. So
yeah, but yeah, they were great though.
Mm-hmm.
I know that they're supposed to put on a heck of a good show. So
yeah, that same concert, Ronnie James Dio was there. This was before
you
he
saw
died.
Ronnie James Dio.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it was cool, man.
That guy's one of the epic. He has one of the epic rock and roll, epic metal voices that's ever existed.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Scream singing, whatever you want. He's a great singer. He was a great singer.
Yeah. Yeah. In the flashback, Mallory hears a ruckus and exits her tent. The camp is in a Central American jungle. The people in Mallory's camp are all gathering around something and cheering. She walks up to see Team Payback posing for the crowd. Mallory says, Payback. Each one more ridiculous than the next. Crimson Countess, Mindstorm, Swato, the TNT Twins, Noir, Gunpowder, and the most idiotic of them all. We see Soldier Boy holding an RPG over his shoulder. He says, what do you say, Gunpowder? Give them the 4th of July?
What about my acrophobia, dude? No trigger warning.
I apologize.
Sorry, I apologize.
Acrophobe warning. We're going to have several instances of this.
I guess we missed TNT as well.
Yeah.
I don't technically know what TNT is. Have you ever known what TNT stands for?
I think no, I don't off the top of my head. It might be short for the chemical used.
Oh, there we go.
We might need to look it up.
High explosive formula. It's just, I'm going to assume it's going to have to be from its, probably from its chemical trinitrolene. So that's where nitro comes from.
Nitroglycerin is in it, right?
Yeah, so trinitrolene.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So there we go.
Okay. Thank you.
Beautiful.
A young Gunpowder says, let's light them up, Soldier Boy. Mallory walks up and says, please put that down. Soldier Boy looks at Mallory and says, well, didn't realize they made case officers as pretty as you. Gunpowder loads a rocket into the RPG and is standing in the line of fire of the exhaust of the RPG launcher. Soldier Boy says, we're just having some fun. Mallory says, our munitions dump is in that direction. You're about to blow up half the camp. Put it down. Now. Soldier Boy throws the RPG back over his shoulder, and Gunpowder almost collapses as he tries to catch and stabilize the RPG. Soldier Boy walks up to Mallory and says, I do like the assertive type. You know, with a figure like yours, you are wasted down here. Crimson Countess doesn't like this statement. She doesn't exactly give an eye roll, but it's close.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty close.
The girl in the TNT twins raises her eyebrows upon hearing this and draws on a cigarette. I thought it was pretty disrespectful of Soldier Boy to say that in front of her, because I think they're in a relationship at this point.
Well, they were, but I'm assuming this is probably standard operating procedure for this fella. He seems to have that kind of swagger to him, doesn't he?
Hard to pick up on him a little bit, but I guess so if he's hitting on her this hard. Yeah. We hear someone say, my humblest apologies. I'm sure this is disorienting. Let's start over. Officer Grace Mallory, isn't it? She says, The man holds out his hand and says, Stanford Edgar. I'm an associate with Vought American. She refuses his hand and walks past him. She says, do you want to explain what the this freak show's all about? He turns and follows her. He says, Vought American has entered into a partnership with the U.S. government in the global war against communism. She says, oh. He goes on. Payback will embed themselves and fight alongside the Contra rebels. Think of it as a trial run. She stops walking and turns to face him. She asks, a trial run for what? He says, superheroes in the military, of course. For the first time in over 30 years. Just imagine how dominant we'd be. We hear a buzzing noise and the camera pans up to show Swatto hovering in the air. Mallory yells, get down. Swatto lands and his wings retract into his back. He walks towards Mallory and asks, what's the problem? She is visibly frustrated. She says, the problem is that the enemy might spot a flying man above the tree line and find our position. Mr. Edgar says, she's right, Swatto. No flights without Officer Mallory's.
I like her. I noticed that you put a little extra emphasis on the wrong syllable on that one. Swatto.
I think you said it that way, didn't you? Like when we were first.
I probably did. I don't know how I said it.
Yeah.
I forget. We've talked for so long, and we're barely just getting started, brother. I keep forgetting we talked about the previous week.
Yeah,
it's like that gum. We talk about a lot.
Yeah. Mr. Edgar says, she's right, Swatto. No flights without Officer Mallory's clearance. Swatto walks away. Mallory looks at Mr. Edgar and says, is this a joke? Supes aren't soldiers. They're undisciplined dipshits, untrained and untested. They do not belong in a war zone. They belong on That's Incredible. That's Incredible was an American reality TV series airing from 1980 to 1984. It showcased amazing feats by humans and animals.
Now, of course, I was a freshman, sophomore on that in '84. There was a kid from my school that was actually on that show. He had the biggest feet for someone his age. At that point, it was like a 13 or a 15. It must have been a 15 because I were 12, but I mean, it's like, and I did it even at that point, but so it must have been like a 15, but he was on there for it was probably what he's like, because I looked it up also. It was Tiger Woods was also one of That's Incredible kids. She was on there like when he's like 8 or something like that. I think it showed him there.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
So he just had big feet. It wasn't like 2 left feet or something.
No, nothing that unusual. Just big.
Oh, okay.
And I think he probably grew up to be a pretty tall fellow. I'm guessing.
Have you seen Best in Show?
Not. Yes. It's been a long time, but I love that trilogy because I put that there was like Spinal Tap, Best in Show, and Waiting for Guffman.
I haven't seen that last one.
Waiting for Guffman's same crew.
Okay.
But it's a town doing a local production of some number. It's like a town smaller than my size, and that's like the height of their season. Is like this big theatrical production, and they get this guy who is, I don't know if he's like a wardrobe assistant or something on like one of the big Broadway numbers. And he's coming out here to help this podunk town do this production. I can't remember what the production is, but it's really funny though. It's that same group, same vibe, different formula.
Okay.
But it's great.
Mr. Edgar says, tell that to Soldier Boy. He's a living, breathing American hero. Mallory says, I'm not allowing this. Mr. Edgar says, I'm sure Director Casey will address any concerns you may have. He smoothly reaches into his jacket pocket and removes an envelope, holding it out for Mallory. She takes it from him. Mr. Edgar says, oh, and we need a couple of your men to fetch water for our tents. Thank you so much. You know, he was really civil until the end. Then he finishes with something like this. There was a certain air of superiority to this last line from him.
Was it response to her being kind of standoffish?
It's like the president of the United States.
Yes, the future president. He's still what, the SecDef, right? The Secretary of Defense.
Well, no, Dakota Bob, he was the messenger. He was telling Mallory that the president.
Oh, the president said she was standoffish.
Yeah, she was standoffish. Yeah,
that's what it was. Okay,
yeah,
I love it. There we go. Oh,
she certainly is.
Well, I understand it, man. It's kind of supposed to be quiet. These guys are wanting to start launching RPGs into the jungle. It's like, dude, it's like, chill out a little bit. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
It's like, relax a little bit.
A cover of Wham! Wake Me Up Before You Go Go starts playing.
It took me a while to realize it's a cover because I've heard this song so much. I guess I know the lyrics a little more uncomfortably than I did. And I thought it was in English at first. I'm like, oh, that's in Spanish.
Yeah, this version is being performed by Los Jiao. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right. No. Mallory is walking through the camp and comes upon one of her men. He's wearing a Mets hat. In Spanish, she says, Claudio, Mets don't stand a chance in hell this year. He says, Senorita, the Yankees. And he flips her off. She laughs, but then stops when she sees Team Payback in the camp. Gunpowder is performing maintenance on some guns. Crimson Countess is fanning herself with a broadleaf from a plant. Mindstorm is sitting on top of a sawhorse, not doing anything of note. The TNT twins are tanning.
In leather? That's got to be nasty because that jungle has like 95% humidity. It's got to make where you live seem like dry and arid. In the jungle, isn't it? It's pretty tough.
Yeah. I mean, I think they all look sweaty for sure. Yeah, everybody there. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Ugh. Nasty.
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 Yeah. Mallory hears Mr. Edgar speaking. Mr. Edgar says, will the others go along? Black Noir says, everyone but Gunpowder. Now, I was really surprised when I heard him speak.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
I was too. And now this reveals right here, with his face showing, that he is not who I've been thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And I do not think his ID has been changed because he still has the same allergy.
Mm-hmm.
So the question now is, do you still want me to hold on to it?
Yeah. Let's hold on to it a little bit, I think. Okay. We might talk about it offline or something, but for now, let's just, yeah.
Cool. Mr.
Edgar says, good luck, Irving. He's shaking some nuts out of a package into his hand. Mallory sneaks up and is eavesdropping on the conversation undetected. Black Noir has his mask off. He says, can you please stop eating those in front of me? I'm allergic. He sighs, then stands up. He says, so listen, if I'm going to take a more central role on the team, then I want to lose the mask. Mr. Edgar says, silent ninjas score extremely high with boys 7 to 10 years old. Now, I mentioned earlier that I had another anecdote about my children. Uh-huh. It was not 3 days ago that my youngest child told me that he wanted to be a ninja when he grew up.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Who doesn't? I still want to be one. I thought all men secretly wanted to be ninjas. When you go into these interminable meetings at work and your mind starts to drift and you're in that bamboo grove with your katana, who are you stalking? Is it management? Is it just some poor guy? Is it some schlub you've just been sent to kill? I don't know, but you're doing something like that, right?
Man, I'm more of a samurai than a ninja. Like in terms of my mental state, I'm not the creepy guy. I'm like the.
I wish I could be creepy. It's because the ninja's cool, but samurai's cool too. So
yeah,
I have a thing with katanas and bamboo groves.
Mm-hmm.
Do you?
Yeah, I mean, I think Japan's really beautiful, and
dude, I want to see it, man.
Yeah, and like The Last Samurai, I love that movie. It's really good.
You on HBO Max, there's a series. It's there. I think it's on the Turner Classic side now, but it's the stuff that they do. The Lone Wolf and Cub manga is based off of, and there's like 5 or 6 movies in it was made in a 2-year period. That there's your Japanese. He's the Shogun executioner,
mm-hmm.
and it is what The Mandalorian does some riffing on that sometimes, because the tricked out baby carriage, that's very, but this is like, feudal Japan, but there's some ridiculously great stuff in there. It's the water. It's like water hoses for blood. It's magnificent. It's wonderful, terrible, great. You would love it. Don't watch it with your kids because it's really violent, but it's Japanese. It's subtitled, but it's fantastic and strange.
And what is the name of it?
They're usually Baby Cart and the Road to the river. I think it's Baby Cart and the River Styx, Baby Cart and the White Hell. Look under the Baby Cart series on HBO Max.
Okay.
And it'll lead you to this. In Kill Bill 2, the little girl, their little daughter is watching Shogun Executioner or Shogun Assassin. I'm sorry. And Shogun Assassin is an American purchased the rights to them and basically took all the great bits and the violent bits and just strung it together with a loose plot. And this is like a 5 or 6 movie arc. And it's him taking contracts and killing people for money to support him and his son and getting into some ridiculously crazy supernatural ninja Shogun assassin things. It's ridiculous. It's amazing. They're Japanese. They're wonderful. You'll love it.
Okay.
I say that. I'm pretty sure you will love it.
Okay. Well, I like it as much as Ginger Snaps. I remember you recommended Ginger Snaps to me.
Did I recommend Ginger Snaps? Oh my word! Yeah, it's been so long.
No, it wasn't Ginger Snaps. It was the Peter Jackson zombie movie. That's the one that you recommended to me.
Alive.
Yeah, that's the one. Somebody else recommended Ginger Snaps to me. Okay.
Yeah, Dead Alive. Did you ever see Dead Alive?
Yeah, because you made me watch it, and I was like, man, this movie is crazy. I think
it's
he gets the lawnmower right in his house, and crazy.
He straps the lawnmower to his chest and starts wading through the zombies and has to step on the body parts to keep his balance. It's wonderful.
Yeah. That's one way to describe it.
And it's so funny. It's just wonderful.
Mr. Edgar continues. The mask lends a certain mystique. Now, we've been trying to figure out what's going on with Black Noir for like 2 seasons because he had a mask on. Right? Yeah. Just think about how we've been reacting. So, yes, it does add a mystique.
It's mind-blowing, dude. It does. Because now, but the problem is now my mind shifts to different questions. Because the conjecture can't stop now. It's like, well, is he Stan's brother? Possibly MM's brother? I've referred to a brother in the comics. He's not referred to any family that we know of except that his family is dead. What family does that include?
Right.
So I don't really know. It's like, then this is truly like I said, the reveal of this character being the color that he is changes who he is.
Well, we knew he was black.
No, we did not.
When he raised his face one time, you could tell his skin was black.
I saw his face was blackened from where it was kind of charred up. I didn't notice it. I didn't notice that his texture was necessarily that he was black. I just thought his head was burnt and chewed up at that point.
Oh, well, I mean, I did mention that he's played by a black actor, so maybe that kind of
you did, and you did, but it's like I said, because like I said, so I did not suffer from this. Like I said, this actually changes it. That's why I said this changes. The racial reveal changes everything.
Okay. Black Noir says, well, mystique. People don't even know it's me under this thing. I got to wear it just to get a cab. Mr. Edgar says, Payback is the country's premier superhero team. The whole country. Sadly, a black member is still a non-starter below the Mason-Dixon. Black Noir says, well, I could be bigger than that. I could be Eddie Murphy. Now, this struck me as weird. A comedian ninja? That doesn't seem on brand.
Now, I do not take it as that. I am a little bit older than you. So Eddie Murphy was so beloved in this country and then became internationally so that he was popular everywhere in America. I mean, in a lot of places in some places in small towns where he might not have been allowed, if he weren't Eddie Murphy, he would have been welcome there.
Okay.
So, I mean, I think that's where he's leaning. Is just the fact he's just so accepted. People don't care. Eddie's just so widely accepted. Everyone just loves Eddie Murphy because he's just the funny guy.
Okay, that makes more sense.
I think that's what he's because my brother got to see him. I think in about '89 in Tulsa, and it was when he was on the rise, but he wasn't quite there. And it's still one of the greatest things he said I'd ever seen, because he's seen several comedians, and that's one of the greatest he's ever seen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but the energy was really good in those shows.
Oh yeah. Yeah. A lot of cocaine back in those days too. Charlie Murphy.
No, man. Now we're getting into
Sorry.
Dave Chappelle, who I think is the greatest comedian of all time.
Hey, yep. Dave Chappelle admits that they get nervous. He goes, if anybody makes you nervous in the audience, who makes you nervous? It's Eddie. If you see Eddie, because they wouldn't be there if it wasn't for Eddie. Mm. And that's what Chappelle says, and I agree. I mean, Chappelle is the greatest of this generation for sure. Mm-hmm. But it's like to go back and look at even the Saturday Night Live stuff that Eddie Murphy did. That was the end when there was an era of him being on Saturday Night Live. That's when I last considered Saturday Night Live funny. Mm-hmm. They did the White Like Me, where he does whiteface and goes and gets given a bunch of stuff, mm-hmm. and he's like, "This is pretty great," you know. Mm-hmm. It's like it ends with a bunch of his friends all getting made out to be white, so they can go down and get a bunch of free stuff. It's great. It's really great, man.
Yeah. On that topic of Eddie Murphy being in the audience and them getting nervous, Bill Burr, mm-hmm. I was listening to him the other day, and he said he went to a show one time, and Eddie Murphy did show up. I think this was when he was on tour with Charlie Murphy, and so this was like in the 2000s after Chappelle's show, because that's when Charlie Murphy started touring. And
I didn't realize that had happened. So
yeah,
he toured.
Yeah, he started comedy after he was on the Chappelle show. So I think a number of the people that Joe Rogan associates with have talked about touring with Charlie Murphy. Joe Rogan himself might have toured with him at that time, but Bill Burr says he didn't know Eddie Murphy was there until after the show, I think. But then he felt that he didn't go say hi to Eddie Murphy after the show because he felt that he was like being really hard on himself, and he thought his show wasn't that good. So he didn't want to be embarrassed and go talk to Eddie after he bombed. So, yeah, but then he's met him a couple years later, and he said Eddie Murphy was really nice. He felt bad for kind of snubbing him in a way for not going and saying hi to him, but he was more embarrassed than anything. Oh yeah, man, he's awesome, dude. He just gets going on his rants, you know.
I've been on a kick for him lately because sometimes it's like, even this is what's funny. Sometimes it's weird because a lot of Christian apologists are like, sometimes it's funny that the only time you can seek real truth from anything is from these comedians like Chappelle and like Burr, because sometimes they're the only times that are telling any real truth out there. They're not afraid. They're like, you know what? And so even though there can be harsh and stuff, a lot of us are like, what kind of support them? Because a lot of those guys kind of support us in weird ways and supporting our freedoms. Mm-hmm. They're big believers in First Amendment, and that cuts all ways, and they understand that. That's one thing I appreciate about certain comedians. Some of them understand that. Mm-hmm. So they seem to be that kind of aware. And I like that. It's like I love that they're Chappelle and Burr both.
Yeah. We need to move on here, but there's one last thing. I just remembered Patrice O'Neal.
See, I don't know much of him. I know who he is. I've never listened to him.
You go watch Elephant in the Room. He's not, he unfortunately, he died. I want to say it was like 8 years ago or something like that. But you go listen to any interviews of Bill Burr talking about him, or you go listen to Patrice himself, Elephant in the Room. Man, this guy was a savage. The way he talks about women, man, is just like,
is it rough?
He had a way of breaking down the male to female interaction, and it was a zero given attitude.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah. And
I'll check that out.
Just go listen to some of it.
Because the newest person I heard is a guy turned out to a guy named Josh Wolf, Father of the Year. Mm-hmm. You need to watch that. It's real funny. It's free on YouTube, and it's a guy talking about his son wanting to fight him. He goes, "We've all been there." I'm like, "Well, I haven't," but it's like apparently some people have. But it's really funny. He's talking about trying to psych his kid out, and that's what the whole thing is. It's real funny. I think you get a kick. Yeah, I think especially with having kids your age, you're gonna love it. You're gonna love it.
All right, moving on.
Sorry. Nice. Move on.
So after he says he could be bigger than Eddie Murphy, Mr. Edgar doesn't respond. He only eats another nut. Black Noir sighs and says, "I'm not wearing the mask." Mr. Edgar says, "Your choice. Though, once you're farmed out to Minneapolis, St. Paul, you'll want the mask simply for warmth." Now, I do have to point out, he really nailed the Giancarlo Esposito mannerisms at the end of this right here.
Yeah, this guy spent a lot of time studying it, even though I don't know if he plays much bigger part being Stan Edgar younger. Mm-hmm. But It's like he studied it to make sure maybe if he gets any more flashbacks, he's going to be him.
Yeah, he had some good stuff to pull from, right?
Yes, yes, he does. Yes, he does. And he did it, and like I said, nicely done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mallory retreats from eavesdropping. As she is leaving, Soldier Boy says, "You should smile more. I bet it's a beautiful smile." She says, "Okay, look, as an ambassador from Planet Actual Woman, I got to tell you, I know that you think these lines work, but," he interrupts, "Oh, they do. Just ask Lonnie Anderson."
Yeah, that was a former Mrs. Burt Reynolds.
Okay.
So, I mean, that was when Burt, that's like the Bandit Burt.
Mm-hmm.
That's the Mrs. Bandit.
Okay.
Have you ever seen Night at the Roxbury?
That's the only movie I ever walked out of in the movie theater.
Well,
can you believe that?
I can, because it's for some reason I've watched it, but then again, for some reason I know you hate Last Jedi, but Last Jedi got me to watch The Force Awakens.
The Force Awakens was okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed the Last Jedi. I was entertained. I liked it.
Mm-hmm. Hey man, everybody's allowed to have their own opinion. You know.
But apparently my opinion is wrong.
No, man. No, like I said, everybody. I had a guy tell me one time. This is a guy I worked with. He said that for him, episode 1 through 3 were Star Wars because that's what he grew up with, and I had a fit.
Vomited.
Yeah, I was gonna say that, but I was like, "Are you kidding me?" And he's like, "Yeah, those were the movies that were coming out when I was a kid." I was like, "Man,
did I tell you how we've done it? Me and KP?
No.
We started.
Oh yeah, you mentioned it. Yeah. We talked about that.
It's a good order. Because when you try to go back and watch episode 1 in particular, it's not the Jar Jar, it's not the kid stuff. It's part of it is that it's so dated CGI. It does not hold up well versus some of the other CGI. For some reason, it looks really, really awkward.
Mm.
And I mean, all you really miss is trade negotiations and some droids fighting things. So I mean, you're not really missing anything. So that I really am thankful to those guys from Big Bang Theory pointing that out, because I've really enjoyed that order. And right now we're doing the Obi-Wan because we finished 2 and 3, and then we did Obi-Wan, and we're about halfway through that. That's really good.
Really?
I've dug it.
Interesting.
I
haven't heard good things about the villain in that. No,
the woman villain drives me nuts. Absolutely. But at the same time, it's like the rest of I've apparently becoming more forgiving about certain things as I'm getting older, because being too hyper. Now I can go into excruciating detail and not be hypercritical. I think I'm leaning away from my hypercriticalness to just being critical. Not hypercritical anymore, but some things that used to drive me nuts, I've become a little more easy on in films. And I don't know if I'm assuming part of it is age. So I have moved more to just, if I'm entertained, it doesn't have to wow me, but I had better at least I better not be to the point where I'm going to walk out. The only movie I ever walked out of was Summer Rental.
I'm not familiar with that.
That's a John Candy vehicle.
Okay.
Early John vehicle. I love John Candy, but that's a terrible movie. So.
Okay. Yeah. Interestingly, I've never been a big fan of Obi-Wan Kenobi as a character in general, even in the old movies.
See, for you had. Yeah.
Then Ewan McGregor, like I said, wasn't impressed with him as that character either, and people love him as that, but I'm not into it.
Well, that may be an age gap because of the fact that I was about 7 when episode 4 came out, and you had to wait several years before we knew there'd even be a sequel, and so there was a mystique to Obi-Wan because you knew there was way more to the story behind Obi-Wan. And everything was parsed out so lightly that you still got nothing about Obi-Wan from the series, even though, because he was an old man, he wasn't in the series very much. And I mean, Alec Guinness was just a beloved actor. So that's kind of the thing that was one of those, it was the Travolta moment for Guinness before he passed.
Okay.
He'd kind of been, he was a great English actor. I think he's a sir at this point in his life, but he's not doing anything in movies. And Lucas was kind of a nobody. And he manages to get him and Peter Cushing, that's Vader's handler for episode 4. So he had this kind of panache to him, but with having these 2 great English guys who were not in it that much, but he he may have shot their scenes all in one day for all I know.
Right.
If he's a good director, those guys. So they kind of had, for me, there was always a big mystique with both of them because I love both. I love Peter Cushing in particular because of my love of English horror movies. Him and Christopher Lee were partnered up in all the old Hammer movies where it was Frankenstein and Dracula. They were Christopher Lee was Dracula, Peter Cushing was Van Helsing, and then Peter Cushing was Dr. Frankenstein, and Christopher Lee was the monster in several movies for Hammer, probably 20 movies.
Oh wow!
So yeah, so the fact that there was this kind of weird. So for me, it was kind of there was a lot of. And I think that was the last movie Cushing may have done, that or Shockwaves, which is a really terrible underwater zombie movie.
Okay.
You don't get to say much about those movies, but there it is. That's the only underwater Nazi zombie movie.
Yeah.
So,
one of our Patreon subscribers mentioned something about Iron Sky. Isn't that Nazi zombies from the moon? I don't know. It
sounds wonderful.
I don't know.
I have to watch it.
All right,
now.
man. We need to get back on track.
Okay. So sorry.
Yeah,
so sorry.
Right.
Okay.
Mallory says in response to Soldier Boy telling her that the lines do work, she says they don't and they never have. The women are either humoring you or they're scared of you, but none of them like you. He gets a little agitated. He says, if you were a little nicer, maybe you'd find a man instead of out here playing Captain.
Wow.
Claudio walks up and says, "Hey, Senorita Mallory." He is cut off when he is shot from the tree line multiple times.
Did that surprise you? That surprised me.
Yeah.
I jumped.
Mm-hmm. There's an explosion in the camp and people go flying. They're screaming. We hear a butcher say, "Hold that thought." The flashback pauses and we go back to present day. And the way they do it is we hear the voice. So like the screen pauses when he says it. And it's the flashback literally pauses like a movie playing. And then he says, "Hold that
somebody
thought."
in the air.
Yeah, somebody's in the air because there's an explosion and then the body goes flying. Yeah. And we go back to present day. Butcher's stomach is rumbling. He stands up and lurches out of the room. Everyone watches him leave. Then Mallory asks, "What the hell is going on with him?" Starlight is eating lunch and looking at her phone. Ashley opens the door for Homelander. He enters the room and says, "Ah, there she is." She says, "You mind? I'm just grabbing a bite." He interrupts with, "Nope." She finishes her sentence, "To eat." He says, "I do not mind at all." So Ashley tells me that you chose Silver Kincaid. He looks over at Ashley and she nods, saying, "Mm-hmm." He says, "I have notes." Starlight says, "Mm-hmm." He goes on, "I'm co-captain. It's only fair I have a say in the new recruits, right?" Starlight says, "No, actually, I choose the new members." Homelander says, "But I am pitching the craziest twist." He turns to Ashley and says, "The audience will never see it coming, right?" Starlight gets up and says, "Well, I've made my decision." She throws her lunch in the trash. Homelander says, "Oh, come on. You haven't even heard it yet. Seriously. You're going to love it. Ready?" He points to Ashley and she opens the door to the room. The Deep and his wife walk in from the hallway. Homelander excitedly announces, "Return of the Deep." He laughs and greets the Deep. Starlight is taken aback. The Deep says, "Hey, what's up, guys? How are you?" Homelander says, No, Starlight, before you say anything, doesn't Christ tell us to turn the other cheek?" Cassandra walks up and gives Starlight a huge hug. Starlight doesn't reciprocate. Cassandra chuckles and says, "I really want us to be sisters."
Wow.
Like significant others that are non-soup have anything to do with other soups. But,
Yeah. Very uncomfortable.
Homelander says, The Deep says, "I had something made for you, Starlight. It's a peace offering." He opens a jewelry box to show Starlight a dolphin pendant. He says it's 24 karat gold with certified conflict-free diamonds. "I've put in the work, and I realize that when you've made an unforgivable mistake, the first person you have to forgive is yourself." It's amazing logic. He needs to forgive himself for what he made her do. Right.
Oh, well, after all, he was such a victim in the Starlight incident.
Absolutely. He lost his spot on the 7. Completely. It wasn't right. Ostracized for no reason.
Oh, my word. I just about fell over backwards. It's great. It's beautiful. It's gross and beautiful all at the same time. It's funny.
Starlight says, "What makes you think that I want a daily reminder of the guy who mouth me?" As she's speaking, her voice is getting louder, and she turns to Homelander. She says, "I need a word." Ashley approaches the Deep and Cassandra and says, "Let's let these two chat, shall we?" They all walk out. Once they have left, Starlight tells Homelander, "Absolutely not." Homelander says, "Do you really think I'm gonna let a Muslim in the Seven? Captain Al, we're Americans." Starlight says, "I'm taking this to Mr. Edgar." Homelander says, "My speech last night, 38.6 rating and a 59 share. Oh, and they're saying that the live plus threes are going to be even bigger. Edgar said it himself. Popularity is power. He won't die on this hill." Live plus three ratings refer to shows that are watched within the first 3 days after the time they originally air. Live plus three ratings take into account DVR viewing, something that's of increased interest to the rating followers in a binge watching world.
Sure. I get that. Okay.
Starlight thinks for a moment and says, "Do I need to remind you of the Flight 37 video?" Homelander scoffs and stands up. He walks to the door, and Starlight looks at him as if she is one. Instead of leaving, he closes the door, which was ajar. He turns to display a smug smile and says, "Go ahead. Release it. Let's light this candle, huh? I mean, sure, I'll lose everything, but then I'll have nothing to lose." Now, that's the nuclear threat right there.
Well, here we go.
He goes on. "First, I'll take out the nerve centers, White House, Pentagon, then any domestic defense capabilities, and then critical infrastructure, like cellular, internet, that kind of thing. And then, well, I think then I'll just wipe New York off the map for fun. I'll even throw in Des Moines and that little cousin hick town that Maeve's from, because why not? See, Starlight, I'd prefer to be loved. I would. But if you take that away from me, well, being feared is A1 okey doke by me. So," he pauses to sigh, then says, "Go ahead, partner. Do it." "No? You don't want to do it? Well, then I would have to say that you have absolutely no leverage, because I am the Homelander, and I really can do whatever the I want." He is self-actualized. What an amazing threat from him. Seriously.
Absolutely.
Truly back to the Menace from season 1 instead of the Homelander from season 2, who seemed to be in a neutered state in many ways.
Yeah. I actually got chills from that. And am I wrong in saying that I want to see him do it?
Oh man. I mean, it's one of those things that I talked about in season 1, episode 8, right? Where when you see the villain in their true craziness, or the severity of what they're willing to go through, or perform, the things that they're willing to do, sometimes it's just like, who's going to rise to this? How are they going to beat this? And it's a matter of raising the stakes of the game.
Yeah, that's I love it. I just I'm real excited. This has me excited.
Yeah. This little arc that he's on, it's scary. I think that's what it is. It's just scary, and I want to see where it goes.
It's genuinely scary, and I want to see. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
I'm like you. Mm-hmm. I just want to see. We are so alike on that. I love it.
Before we go into the scene, I'm going to give a little warning. It's going to get weird. The Deep and Cassandra enter his suite in 7 Tower. They are passionately going at it. They undress as they make their way to the bedroom. Cassandra stops for a second and says, "Okay, so tomorrow you have the Recontextualizing Feminism panel with Rose McGowan and Alyssa Milano." The Deep says, "Oh, I love Charmed. That sounds like a blast."
Spoken like someone that didn't get his tickets.
I didn't get an invitation. What the hell?
No, yeah, that sounds dry. Let's just put it at that. I'll leave it at that. Sorry.
What is the Deep going to offer in that panel? He's just there to fall on a sword, or what?
He's there to represent.
Be a whipping boy.
He's there to be the whipping boy for former offenders everywhere, I guess. And it's how we can move on past that, I guess. I got no idea. If he was genuine, I might actually be. If he just didn't understand, I think about when is it that Maeve's called him a POS. She goes, you think I'm a piece of crap? He
She's
just
like,
has,
yeah.
it's like he has zero idea. He's this that clueless. I love it. It's
Yeah.
just,
The world's so beautiful.
yeah.
He's so deep and thoughtful.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Cassandra says, hey, babe, I'm serious. He asks, yeah? She says, we need to cover your ass. She reaches down and grabs his butt when she says this. Then she says, in case that Starlight comes after you again.
Now, that's kind of an unsettling comment, isn't it?
Yeah, the way she's talking about Starlight, it's like he can do no wrong. The Starlight was the offender in the interaction.
Maybe there's something later on that there's a couple things here. I'm starting to see her in a different light.
No, man, she was flashing red from the second we saw her.
Oh, we know that absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, I mean, I don't know how much more you need to know she's psycho, but like from the moment we saw her, the alarms were going off.
She seemed a tad more genteel. I'll put it. She was one of those like more hot. I say that we'll continue. We'll bring this up later. This will be readdressed. I guarantee you.
The Deep says, thanks, babe. I couldn't have done this without you. She says, you're telling me. She shoves him down onto the bed and straddles him. We can see at the head of the bed there's a massive fish tank with an octopus in it. The octopus is up against the side of the fish tank, and it's watching what's going on. The Deep flips on top of Cassandra, and they begin to go at it. We get a shot of the octopus from inside the fish tank. The Deep is still performing his duties, but he's looking at the octopus. He says, oh, yeah? You like that? Cassandra, not realizing he's not talking to her, says, oh yeah. The Deep says, oh God, you're so wet. He's looking that octopus dead in the eyes when he says this. Cassandra says, oh, it's all you, baby. It's all you. The Deep says, oh yeah? Yeah, what are you going to do? You going to jerk me off with all your arms? Cassandra's confused. She asks, all my arms? The Deep says, yeah, and grunts as he finishes.
Now I'm more disturbed by that than the dolphin incident. Thanks, Dane.
Yeah, we'll see what Dane has to say about this.
Oh, I don't know about Dane. I love you, dude. Please don't be too graphic. Please be easy on us.
I'm not trying to envision what this looks like because that octopus is not very large.
You can't not envision what this is all about. I'm sorry. It's time I can't get back.
We're moving on. I'm not even.
Thank you.
We're moving on.
I can't get back. I can't get back. So please.
Butcher is in the bathroom throwing up. Sure, V24 is ready for the military. He had one dose, and 2 days in, he's having side effects.
Well, and I think, but Babe did warn him. This we still have it, but we're not ready for military yet. We're trying to get it there. But this was, I think, he was warned that this was not. Even when Maeve gave it to him, I think she was like, "Be careful with this stuff. It could kill you. It might kill you."
I was thinking what Mr. Edgar said to Dakota Bob. Right. He said they're working out the kinks.
They are. But this is not the kink-free formula that Butcher has access to. This is what I was kind of referring to in the idea. I'm wondering if we'll see more of the cut V. Will this be available on some type of street level, or I don't know. I'm curious. It's very interesting where we're going. Yeah. Very intrigued.
Butcher finishes and is washing his face. He's panting and he looks at himself in the mirror. His eyes start glowing again. There's a knock at the door. Ryan says, Butcher, are you okay? Butcher says, yeah, mate, it's all good. Just give us a minute, yeah? Ryan asks, do you need any help? And begins turning the knob on the bathroom door. Butcher says, don't come in. His eyes are still glowing. Huey is out on the porch and his telephone rings. It's Starlight. He says, hey, Annie. Starlight says, Homelander's had a breakdown. He's lost his mind. Huey says, hey, slow down. What? Starlight tells him he's bringing the Deep back into the 7. So I brought up the video, and he said to go ahead and release it. You were right. Co-captain was a bad idea. I had to leave. Huey says, look, I know I should tell you to run out of there like a house on fire, and I want to. but you got to stick it out. She says, I'm sorry. Huey says, listen, I'm back with Butcher. She asks, why? She's nervously pacing around behind one of the trailers on the American Hero set. Huey says, we're onto something that could kill Homelander. She asks, what? What is it? Huey says, some kind of weapon. I'm not sure, but you got to buy us some time. Keep your eyes on him. She asks, how much time? She looks like she's about to cry. Huey says, she says, you don't know. So for God knows how long, I have to paste on a smile with Homelander growing more unstable by the hour, hoping that he doesn't kill me or worse. Huey looks down and says, if that's what it takes, then yeah. That had to be hard to deliver to her.
Oh, that's tough to watch him deliver it to her. But
Yeah.
I'm kind of proud of him for digging deep, but I'm kind of scared too to see what this represents. I just hope he doesn't become too much like Butcher. But the commitment here, like I mentioned, like I said, true believer. I mean, he's become a true believer.
Yeah.
And so much so that him and her, this episode, where it goes is wild. But I'm kind of impressed.
Yeah. She doesn't say anything. She looks almost betrayed. Huey softens a bit and says, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Just Homelander and Vicky, they're running laps around us because we keep trying to do it the right way. The high road just doesn't work. We have to be as mean and up as they are. She says, now you sound like, Huey interrupts, like Butcher. I know, but Annie, he's right. He's been right all along. I'm just so tired of losing. She sighs, then nods and says, okay, you better pull this off, Huey. But okay. They hang up. A-Train and Nathan are watching Nathan's boys play slapsies on the porch of Nathan's house. A-Train says, I used to destroy you in slapsies. Nathan says, you had super speed.
That'd be like standing still, man.
Yeah. One of the boys slaps the other's hand, causing him to say, ow. Nathan's wife, Arana, comes out of the house and says, Kamari, put another hand on your brother, you see what happens. The other boy says, hey, Uncle Reg, what's up with that suit? A-Train says, oh, you like it, huh? Kamari says, that's corny. Arana says, hey, Kamari, that's not how you talk to your uncle. A-Train tells her, nah, it's all right. Young men just don't understand the history. Arana says, oh, no, the suit's ridiculous, but he shouldn't be using that kind of language. All right, inside, both of y'all, all right? And wash your hands, for real this time. Both the boys go inside with her. Nathan looks at A-Train and says, I didn't want to say nothing, but A-Train says, just trying to show the community I'm down for the cause. Nathan laughs and says, since when you been down with any cause? A-Train says, come on, man. I mean, I can't run. I can't do so I got to rebrand. Stay in the game somehow. Nathan retorts, or you don't. You could just be my pain in the ass little brother, Reg. A-Train nods and says, yeah. Nathan says, let me tell you, man, I'm happier coaching these kids than I ever was working at Vought. You should come down to the track. They'd love to see you.
Now, does he mean as A-Train's trainer or something else working for Vought?
I believe in this context as A-Train's trainer. I can't imagine what else he'd be doing there.
Well, I can't either. I was just curious if that's how you took that. That's what I did, but okay, cool.
A-Train sighs and says, yeah. Nathan says, okay, since you want to be down with the cause so much, he gets out his phone and hands it to A-Train. There's a video from a local news channel. A white woman named Dana Whitmire is speaking. She says, I was walking home and this mugger came up behind me. I was terrified. The newswoman says, and that's when Dana Whitmire says Blue Hawk came to her rescue. Blue Hawk says, at approximately 7:15 p.m., I spotted a black male following the victim southbound on Marin Boulevard. I intercepted him, at which point the suspect became aggressive. The header on the news says, Blue Hawk stops savage mugging. Nathan takes his phone back and says, brother lived a few houses up the street, 3 kids. He was just walking home from work. Blue Hawk curb stomped him so hard it cracked the pavement. A-Train shakes his head and says, that's up. Nathan agrees. A-Train says, maybe I can throw his family some cash or something. Nathan says, they don't need a handout. They need you to speak up. You're in the mother 7. A-Train says, yeah, but, I mean, he chuckles and says, listen, I'm Michael Jordan. I'm not Malcolm X. Everybody loves the A Train, right? Nathan gives him a look but doesn't say anything.
A Train is marginally better than the Deep. I mean, marginally. I mean, it's in the smarts department.
Yeah.
They're both kind of down there.
To compare himself to Michael Jordan, get out of here.
Yeah, get out of here, dude. Michael Jordan was way more of an ambassador than you realize.
Even beyond that, A Train has nowhere near Michael Jordan's work ethic.
No.
Nothing even
insulting.
close to the same level. Yeah. But that's just where he is in his head. He's like, oh, man, I'm one of the greats, if not one of the greatest athletes of all time.
Yeah.
You know?
It's kind of funny. We got two references like that in this episode. One's coming up later.
Okay.
I'll have it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. We'll get there.
Yeah.
Frenchie is walking through an alley when a vehicle pulls up next to him. A man named Yevgeny with a Russian accent says, Sergey, Nina wants to see you. Frenchie says, Yevgeny, how's your wife? She still enjoy getting her salad tossed by a Frenchman while her husband tosses nothing? Another time. Frenchie turns to walk away. That was a savage burn.
Yeah, that's rough.
Yeah.
It's vicious.
Yeah.
Love Frenchie. Serge.
As Frenchie turns, he sees a man with the ubiquitous Adidas tracksuit on slowly approaching him. He actually has Nike pants on, so only the jacket is Adidas this time.
Maybe he's one of these Russian guys that was born here. So he doesn't get to wear the full Adidas. He has to wear the Nike pants. Or he's got to do something to earn the full suit. I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe it's like a badge of honor. You earn pieces of it as you level up.
Maybe
right?
so.
Yeah, as you get your stars. I think that's what the Russian mafia has, right? The stars.
The stars, yes.
Frenchie stops and turns the other direction to see another man approaching him. Yevgeny says, "Get in." Back to Butcher in the bathroom. He's sitting on the floor with his back to the wall. His eyelids are squeezed shut, and we hear a sizzling noise. There are tears coming out of his eyes. He says, "Come on, knock it off." He bangs his head against the wall in frustration. It finally stops, and he exhales in relief. He exits the bathroom to find Ryan waiting. He says, "All right, mate." Ryan asks, "Are you sick?" Butcher says, No, I had a dodgy kebab, didn't I? Went straight through me." Ryan holds up some saltine crackers and says, "Try these." Butcher reaches for one and says, "Well, I'll be." He chuckles and says, "Your mom used to give me these when I was under the weather." Ryan says, "Same." Butcher says, "I hated them." Ryan tells him, "I used to crush them up and put them in the bird feeder when she wasn't looking."
I like saltines, man. What's the matter? Am I wrong?
I mean, they're adequate. It was about as far as I was going.
They are adequate. They are.
To quote Eddie Murphy, they're no Ritz cracker.
Oh, that was amazing. Nice. No, it is not a Ritz cracker. You are correct, sir.
Actually, I think he was comparing them to saltines, wasn't he? Like that in the joke, that's what it was. Saltines versus Ritz, wasn't it?
Ritz, yes.
Wow, that's great, man. Yeah. Butcher says, "Well, I don't blame you. They done off leave your mouth drier than a nun's." He stops himself, and then he looks out of the corner of his eye at Ryan. Ryan says, "You were going to say vagina." Butcher says, "Yeah, something like that." Ryan laughs, then gets serious. He says, "It's not just your stomach, though. Your heart's racing. I can hear it. And your blood smells funny, too." Very astute, this boy is.
And then power's kicking in pretty quick.
I didn't know he had a super sense of smell.
It's going to, everything. He has all those, all of our senses. Imagine his jacked up to, to real super high.
Okay, so what do Flaming Hot Cheetos taste like to Superman?
Probably disappointment.
What? Is that a dig at Flaming Hot Cheetos?
No, I like Flaming Hot Cheetos, but he's like going, please. It's like,
does he hate him as much as Frenchie? These chips, those were Doritos, but he said these chips with this.
everything would be plain. Superman can chew gravel, and I mean, he could physically eat gravel if he wanted to. It would,
Where I was
so
going, though, you said every sense is heightened. I'm talking about
yeah.
his sense of
Oh, would it be
taste. And I
bad?
thought of like the most intense flavor I could think of. What about a Sour Patch Kid? What does that taste like to
Wow.
Superman?
If that was the case, if he wanted to narrow it down and focus on it like that, it might be really super intense.
Mm-hmm. Oh, so he has the option of using his cool powers.
Maybe I don't know. I'm just guessing. I'm guessing. Maybe he can limit himself.
So he can
maybe
either
it's like Daredevil.
see the spectrum like a mantis shrimp or like a regular human. Is that what you're saying?
Or I don't know what to say.
He can either hear more frequencies or he can't. It just depends on what number the dial's on.
Here, this is this is always a problem with guys like Superman. It's like he's not it's not the powers. It's always when they take his powers away. See, Superman doesn't suffer from this. He's the hero that suffers from losing his powers all the time. So he has to overcome them, and because he's Superman, he always overcomes as a man a lot of times, and he's just he's super. What do you want?
I can't do it. I'm not taking the bait. We're moving on.
I'm not trying to get you to take the bait. You're the one that's done all the digging here. I'm just laughing. You've had me on the ropes here, brother. So,
I mean, all I heard was he has heightened senses, and I'll admit I may have gone on a little bit of a polemical attack when it comes to the senses, and may have bombarded you with a number of examples that came to mind, but I'll let you think on that.
Okay. I would think it would be very plain and bitter. This guy could, we'll think about it. If you see him like I do, where it's more like 50 caliber minigun bullets are bouncing off his eyeball, not his eyelid, but his open eye. I imagine that, it's all, I don't think he even really eats. I think he's sustained by the sun, dude. He can eat, but it doesn't really mean anything to him. My class says, yeah, to that, by the way.
I'm thinking about that. We've never seen him eat, that's for sure. But
yeah, you see him go from being a skeleton to being exposed to sunlight to recuperating in the Batman Superman movie. Now that's from a Frank Miller from the book called Dark Knight Returns, where he takes a nuke up into the sky and he takes the full blast, and while he's in the cloud, he's like a skeleton, just like that. But once he hits the sunlight, and this is on Earth, he just instantly just revives, and he just heals almost instantaneously.
So he's like a plant,
kind of. I guess so. He's a solar battery.
Okay,
he's a giant solar battery.
Mm-hmm. Maybe one of his villains should be like a. We need to stop. I'm not gonna. We just need to go forward because I could go. I had an idea.
We have to remember that you need to remember this so this will help spot, because I lose these ideas for questions for us for doing the Batman Superman show, and because I'm but when you bring it up, I'm like, oh yeah, we should talk about that. Mm-hmm. I forget to make notes. So
okay. Butcher says, "Don't you worry, son. Nothing a good night's kip won't sort out." Butcher walks back into the room with the boys and Mallory and says, "Sorry about that." Huey asks, "What the hell did you drink last night?" Butcher doesn't respond and says, "Right, where were we?" Mallory says, "To the surprise of no one, that moron Swato went for another joy flight, giving away our position. Even better, the Sandinistas brought Russian special forces with them, though that didn't matter much to the Supes. We are taken back to the flashback where two men are running through the camp. Crimson Countess runs out behind the men and blasts them with an energy ball. The explosion of blood and guts is as spectacular as it is gruesome."
Her people detonating ability is different than Victoria's, and I don't even know how to describe it.
It's like in Doom when they get gibbed.
Yeah.
It's literally that.
Yeah, that's pretty true. It's like, it's just like real chunky, kind of cartoony looking violence. It's kind of.
It's like when you hit somebody with a rocket launcher in Doom.
When they did that to the Homelander figure, when Frenchie and Kamiko went after her,
Yes.
I didn't. That's why I told you I didn't realize that was a real guy in there.
It was so comical.
It was so yeah, her explosions are
that's not
kind
the
of
right word.
comical.
Yeah,
Look,
yeah. It's
it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's odd. It's just it looks different. It's more chunky.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's hard to. It's like fluffy gore versus like I don't know. Move along.
Instantaneous meat bits. Did I just coin a new term?
Oh my goodness! Sorry. Oh my goodness!
You gotta breathe. You gotta breathe.
Okay, I'm sorry. Oh my goodness, you're on fire tonight, dude. It's just amazing.
Is that another T-shirt?
Did you see? It's
yes.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. I'm sorry the headphones are off. I'm trying to wipe myself down here. Hold on. Oh goodness. Wow. Yeah, that's spectacular. I'm standing up.
Thank you. Thank you.
Standing O for you on that one, brother. Woo. Oh my goodness. Oh. Yeah, instantaneous meat bits.
All right.
Is the horse frog instantaneous meat bits?
All right.
Do we provide this with the menacing massage?
Maybe. Well, I don't know if you want to combine those two. One could lead to the other.
I'm not saying that. I'm hoping that the one does not lead to the other.
Yeah.
But do you feed someone instantaneous?
Oh no!
It's walking in a menacing massage.
Oh man!
Oh gosh!
All right.
Oh man!
All right.
Great job.
Thank you.
I'm in shock, folks. That's amazing.
Mallory's in shock when she sees the instantaneous meat bits, and then she yells, "Those are my men!"
They were.
Yeah. Crimson Countess takes a breath and runs off. Mallory is running and shooting at some enemies. She takes down one and hides behind a stone wall. Some of Mallory's men are escorting Mr. Edgar. Black Noir eliminates them. And Mallory sees all of this, and Black Noir is slashing them up to bits.
Yeah.
Swato runs by yelling. He begins buzzing and flying in the air. We see a missile emerge from the jungle, and it kind of like loops around a little bit, then hits him in the middle of the air, causing him to explode. It's about what I expected. I reminded of the first time we discussed Swato, and you were telling me his powers. My first reaction was, "That's it," and I'm not surprised he's useless at all.
Right? Oh, I'm not. They're terrible. I try to defend these people sometimes if they'd had some proper training, for goodness sake. But I don't know. I don't know if that would have helped them. These guys panic at the first sign of anything when it doesn't go their way. That's the difference between a real soldier and these guys that they're superheroes.
They're LARPing.
Like that. Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they are. I actually know what that is. Nice. Okay, thanks.
Soldier Boy is in hand-to-hand combat with a number of attackers. He's punching them and bludgeoning them with his shield. Mallory shoots one of them in the back, and Soldier Boy acknowledges the save by pointing at Mallory before he begins attacking another person. He hits this new attacker with his shield and sends him flying through the roof and high in the air. We see the body land and impale itself on a stick at the edge of the camp.
Two things. First off, good hang time, and he didn't even really try to hit him hard.
No, it was just like a little uppercut with his shield, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And number two, did he aim him there?
Oh man!
If he did, I'm really impressed. I would be super impressed if that. It's bad enough that the guy got hung in the air and the impact's probably going to kill him, but to get staked on top of it, it's like, wow.
That'd be crazy if that's not even a trigonometry expert at that point, right?
It's a called shot. It's like
it's an artillery expert.
Yeah,
he sighted it.
Yeah, he did. He just used it. It's like, there you go.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that's pretty scary.
Gunpowder is in a mounted machine gun on top of a Jeep, mowing down Mallory's men within the camp. He yells, "Oh yeah!" Mindstorm and the TNT twins are cowering below the Jeep that Gunpowder is shooting from. The male TNT twin yells, "Gunpowder, will you please stop?" Mindstorm is on his knees freaking out. I wonder what his powers are, because he doesn't seem to be doing anything. Same thing with the TNT twins, I guess. they're just useless.
Gunpowder. Yeah.
No, not gunpowder.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the TNT twins and Mindstorm.
Oh yeah, I'm assuming that Mindstorm is going to be some kind of psychic attack.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume like illusionist or something like that.
Okay.
Maybe, and then the TNT. I'm assuming they detonate some kind of explosive.
Okay.
Something.
Yeah. Gunpowder is bloodlusted. He takes a bead on Mallory, and she runs. Missiles begin to land around her from the enemy. One launches her to the side, then another launches her into a wall, and she blacks out.
Dude, what a visceral scene.
Yeah.
You really feel that. That's a man. I want to see a really full-blown war movie these guys do. These guys have some immersive action. When they get to doing stuff, Amazon does some immersive stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good. Really good.
Yeah. When she wakes up, the fighting has stopped. She sees the ruin of Claudio's head laying on the ground with his Mets cap still on. That's what kicked the whole thing off, was him getting shot. She hears Black Noir grunting and gasping. She walks around the corner of the crates he's sitting behind to find him horribly disfigured. One eye is gone, half his face is destroyed. He has a wound on his scalp. He's reaching for his helmet, but is unable to move enough to reach it.
Does this explain why he's so easily controlled by Mr. Edgar? Like brain damage, because he seems so simple, like reaching for things that he knows will kill him. Maybe like maybe he wasn't reaching for something that would kill him, but reaching for the can of haze. These simple childish things he does. It's too early to say, but
maybe. You might be right, because he is obviously injured in a way that he doesn't have his full mental capacity in this scene here.
Yeah, that's what.
Then you think about the scrawling of the writing when he wrote Butcher's name, or well, I don't know, man. He seems to be able to comprehend stuff.
He does some. I think he can probably comprehend, but I think maybe he's lost almost all ability to communicate.
Okay,
and he's just an automaton almost.
I have a new theory.
Okay.
There are multiple noirs. One of them is this one, and then the other one is somebody impersonating him.
There could be that. There could be, like I said, if you said it was listing different weights,
heights and weights.
But that's the same side of the face that we saw exposed in the explosion.
Yeah,
and that explains why his face is screwed up. Yeah,
that's the real one.
So this is the guy that we know, that I believe to be the Black Noir from the end of season 2. That was at the Taffy house, his aunt's.
Yes,
dope house.
Butcher's aunt's.
I believe
dope
that
house,
to be the same Black. Yes, I think that's the same Black Noir, but there might be. But I'm with you. There could be. Is the guy that's back? Is this even Black Noir? Because we have Noir back. Did he come out of his coma? We don't know. He's just back.
We haven't seen him yet, have we?
We've been told. We haven't seen him. We've just been told. I say that. I thought I heard his name dropped. I guess we'll find out. I can't remember. I'll have to dig on that. I'm sorry. But I do know that Noir takes a special. It appears that he takes a kind of pride in his work, especially from attacking the Nakib's place.
Right.
When he gets into killing mode, that's like a really, a point of pride. I feel
he's very proficient.
Yes, extremely proficient. So this may answer some of my questions. It's answered a lot more than I thought it would. I was really kind of surprised, especially with the face reveal. That blew me away.
Mallory doesn't help him and walks away. She hears Crimson Countess crying out. She says, "Oh God, they killed Soldier Boy." Mallory says, "What? Who?" Crimson Countess says, "The Russians. They had some kind of gun or weapon or something." Mallory says, "That's impossible." Crimson Countess says, "No, we saw it. We saw it." We hear a Russian helicopter take off in the background, and Crimson Countess points to it. She says, "They took his body," and points to the helicopter. Do you believe her story? Seems kind of suspicious to me.
I was going to ask you the same thing. And then when I think back on it in my head, even the way she says it almost seems fake.
Mm-hmm.
Like, did she sell him out?
Oh, I wasn't.
That's one of those that just popped in my brain. Sometimes I get these weird things that just jump into my head from certain, and you see, you know what I'm saying? It's like, that just now jumped into my head.
What would be the benefit of selling him out? She's actually a Russian spy?
She could be.
Long, deep cover.
She could be deep cover, American style. You sorry, do you remember the
I do.
television show The
Yeah.
Americans?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of maybe lost the Cold War, doesn't know what to do. I got no idea. They were still in the Cold. They were still in the Cold War at that point because that was the Russian special forces. So and so that could be. Why would she? Because why would she go after? I can understand Gunpowder being a kid, PTSD, and hosing everyone down because he's just bloodlusting. But what was her excuse for killing people that inexperience counts for something, sure, but she kind of seemed it almost when you look back at it with that in mind, you're like,
Yeah.
So, like I said, that just jumped in my head just now.
Okay.
So that's there, folks. Think about it.
We'll see how that plays out.
Yeah, but I don't know if I believe that Soldier Boy's dead.
Yeah.
Too.
I don't think he's dead.
Do you? Do you know? Do you feel the
feel
same
that
way?
there's some shenanigans going on here. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay.
Me too. Shenanigans. Nice. I'm calling shenanigans. That was referenced at work the other day. I heard somebody reference that episode. It's like, no way.
Did you honor the shenanigans?
They weren't talking about shenanigans. They were mentioning corn.
Okay.
Isn't that the corn episode? Is that the Corn's Groovy pirate episode?
Is that? I don't know. That's a long time since I saw that one. But I thought you had to declare shenanigans, and then it was shenanigans.
Yes, if you declare shenanigans, that's for carnival folk.
Yeah,
which you have to watch out for. We do have a carnival that shows up at my parking lot apparently every fall.
Have fun with that.
That's my first experience. Right.
Back to present day, Mallory says, I lost 116 men, and Vought got full immunity. That was the day I decided to make them pay. Butcher says, well, ain't that a wonderful story? Tell me, Grace, where did the Ivans take this soup gun? Mallory says, the trail went cold behind the Iron Curtain. It's the truth. My reach only goes so far. Says, you knew what Soldier Boy did to my family, but you didn't think I needed to know the truth? Mallory says, it wasn't that simple. frowns. This was a big betrayal.
I agree. I think one of the few things that could count on was Mallory's having his or their back. And that would be big. And I understand, but I understand to some side as a command level why she may not tell the command, like the command to the commanded. Sometimes people don't tell why they do these things. She's a good commander, and it would hurt and it would sting, but she's still proven herself to be right, unfortunately. So I don't know. I get it both sides. Do you?
I mean, in the CIA, they're doing a bunch of dirty work anyway, right? I think she probably compartmentalizes this stuff.
Yeah, I agree.
But it hurts him big time. This is a deep, deep wound for him because of how important this story is to him.
Yes. Yeah, especially knowing, why she held out on knowing this about Soldier Boy that she could have told him, or, but for him to find out like that, I wouldn't want mad at me. I bet he holds a grudge.
We'll see how it plays out.
Look at,
Butcher stands up. Mallory says, Marvin, Hugh, give us the room. They don't move until Butcher turns and nods to After they leave, Butcher says, you came to me after Becca disappeared and promised me Homelander's head. And all this time, you knew there was something that could do the job. And you never said a word. Mallory says, whatever this weapon is, it probably won't work on Homelander. Butcher's getting loud. He angrily says, and what if it does? She responds, even worse, because it wouldn't end with him. You'd go after another soup, then another, then all of them. Butcher says, if you'd have told me about this sooner, Homelander might already be dead. Ryan wouldn't be running from one safe house to the next, wondering when his nutter dad's gonna drop out of the sky. And Becca might still be alive. And for that, I'll never forgive you. Ouch, man.
I kind of like what this reveals. Now, this may be a very odd thing for me to say. It is odd for me to say. But Butcher, in this weird reveal to me, I feel like he'd kill all soups, even Kamiko, if it meant keeping Ryan safe.
At this point, it's just Ryan. He just wants to keep Ryan safe.
Yeah, for some reason, it's like Ryan is his representative of humanity almost. It's like I've put all my hopes on him, and I think we'll get some payout here too.
Butcher begins to walk out. Mallory says, this was never about Ryan or Becca. It was always selfish, always only for you, for the hate inside that you want to let loose on the world. I thought maybe you changed, but I was wrong. You are your father. Always have been.
Is that a Hail Mary attempt on her part?
Hail Mary to get him to do what?
To just get her to get him to understand, or to try and get him back under heel.
Oh, to get him to not be his father?
Get it back in control. Yeah. Oh, well, no, not even. She's using that as a control mechanism, I feel, to try and gain control of him. That's why she would sink that low. I guess that's what I mean by the Hail Mary attempt, to kind of try and get him back under control.
Maybe. I don't know, man. I took it as genuine, like the way she's saying it.
Okay. I know his dad was a hateful piece of crap. I mean, we've talked about,
but he's a hateful too. That. Butcher's hateful too.
I think he's like he is more angry than his father for sure. His dad even said that you're way stronger, and I think he's a lot more scary than his daddy ever was.
Butcher turns to listen to her and then leaves without saying anything. Outside, Huey asks Butcher, what happened? Butcher says, we're off. Ryan gets up and runs after Butcher. He says, Butcher, wait up. Where are you going? Butcher says, the city. Ryan asks, when will I see you again? Butcher says, you won't. Ain't safe for you. Ryan yells, wait, and shoves Butcher, stopping him in his tracks. He asks, what are you talking about? Butcher says, I got to go. Ryan grabs his arm. Hard. Butcher says, Ryan, let go. Ryan defiantly says, no, you said you'd always watch out for me. You promised. Butcher again says, Ryan, let go. Ryan says, I won't let you. Butcher says, well, maybe I don't want to look at you after what you done to my Becca. Did you ever think about that? Ryan slowly takes his hand back as he stares up at Butcher. His breath is shaky. Butcher looks like he's about to cry. Saying this really hurt him, I think.
Yeah.
Ryan processes this for a moment, then his eyes start to glow. Kamiko moves to stand in front of MM and Huey as they watch. Ryan rips off Becca's necklace that Butcher gave him and says, I hate you. Then he runs back inside the house. Mallory gives Butcher a bad look, then goes inside. What a tough scene that was. Betrayal all around. Kamiko and Huey are the only two that escaped that sequence relatively unscathed emotionally. And I have to say, I'm really curious how Ryan will handle this in the long run. Is this one of those moments that is hard, like it's like a hard fork in his life that causes him to go down a bad path? Or will he forgive Butcher since, he has a gentle soul? He's a good kid.
I think Ryan will forgive. Ryan is a good kid. I mean, I look at this incident right here, and I am really proud of him. He could have done what his father probably more than likely has done when he was younger to people and didn't get help, and so had to figure this out on his own. That's the reason why Homelander's part of why it's so dangerous. Ryan is on the situation it calls for true control, and he thinks about it. The boy thinks about it, but he knows better. And he doesn't do it. So I think that shows everything. It may hurt his feelings, and it hurts to see it, but at the same time, I'm real proud of Ryan. I really like Ryan. It's like it's working. Them raising him nicely. Becca's work is working. It's showing it.
What do you think this cost Butcher to say this to him?
Oh, it's cost him everything. Like I said, because what I said earlier about the fact he'd be willing to kill everybody, I think everything he is doing right now is kind of Ryan. I think is his surrogate son. It's a piece of Becca.
That's what I see. Yeah.
And so he's willing to. I mean, how close they've got over this past year shows how much he loves that kid. He changes his attitude on a dime when that kid says something to him. He calls him out. He goes, no, I'm not mad at you. I mean, he goes, it's been something really special in this show. It's been, like I said, it's been part of the joy. I'll comment later on in the show again, but this kid Ryan has really grown on me a lot. I really like him as a young actor. He's really good. You didn't weigh in. What do you think? Do you think you think he'd be a forgiving kind of kid?
I do.
Yeah. Okay. We're on the same page. Okay.
I think he's got a good soul.
Yes, he does.
And I think that he'll understand that Butcher did this to protect him ultimately. Because I think that's what Butcher's trying to do. He's trying to force right now. Ryan doesn't want Butcher to leave him. Butcher is trying to give Ryan a reason to not want to see him so that it's easier for Butcher to do what he has to do.
Yeah. And especially with him being on this this V24 stuff.
Mm-hmm.
That's not necessarily 24. It's having some lingering stuff, and he might accidentally hurt. He's afraid that maybe he'll hurt Ryan too, and he might. He could accidentally hurt that kid.
Yeah.
Or he could incite a fight in which the kid could really hurt Butcher.
Right. We are taken to a Russian grocery and deli in Brighton Beach. This is in Brooklyn, New York. Inside, Frenchie is sitting in a chair at a table. He has a bag over his head, and his hands are restrained behind his back. A woman walks up behind him and cuts the zip tie binding his wrists with some dangerous-looking scissors. She then removes the bag from his head. She says, "Sorry if Yevgeny got a little rough. He's still a bit bitter you ate his wife's anus."
So it was not an insult to Yevgeny, but it's simply a fact.
Yeah, but to rub salt in the wound. Yeah. Yeah. But you are correct. She lights a cigarette. Frenchie asks, "Why am I here, Nina?" She says, "Do you remember Mikhail Petrov? You wait for him to come home. He step out of his minivan, you attack. He knocks the blade from your hand, so you slam this Honda Odyssey minivan sliding doors on his neck over and over until he's..." She takes a deep breath and says, "Decapitated. Art. Who can define it? Then you discovered his young bride in the passenger seat, and my Sergei does not leave a witness behind. Where is Cherie?"
Did you watch the Daredevil, right? The Netflix Daredevil?
I did.
Do you remember when Kingpin used a car door to remove someone's head?
That was crazy, man.
I had never seen it done before except on Netflix Daredevil.
Wait, no, hold on. What about in Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels?
I can't, dude. It's been so long. I can't remember that movie at all. Except I can remember the cage. I remember the end. I mean, like getting rid of things. I don't want to say too much, but it's been so long. I'm more of a. I remember Snatch more.
Well, the actor that plays Bullet Tooth Tony, that soccer player, in Lock, Stock, he has a son. He's going around. He's a tough guy, and he takes his son on jobs with him. And he's in his car. I can't remember the specifics of the situation, but somebody runs into their car while they're both in it. And he gets out of the car because these people endangered his son's life. He goes ham on one of their heads in a door sill like that.
Well, it's funny because when we're first introduced to him as Bullet Tooth Tony, he is presumably working a fella's head in a door. When he answers the phone, the bonjour.
So maybe he does it in both movies.
Sure, he slapped, but but at least I said with the one in the Kingpin doing it in the Netflix Daredevil, there's the head is obliterated the same way that I'm assuming that Fritchie kind of got this guy's head off with a blunt instrument like a car door. It's gonna be pretty nasty.
Pretty crazy, man.
Oh, it's crazy.
She walks up and stands in front of him. Her knee is very close to his crotch. Frenchie says, "I don't know." This in response to her asking, "Where is Cherie?" She takes her knee and sets it down on his crotch. We get a nice bit of the Hauer effect from her leather pants. And I have to say, I did not expect to get that sound from someone's pants.
Well, it's not the way one wants to experience the Hauer effect in your pants, is it?
No, it's not. No, it isn't. Frenchie grunts and says, "She had a place in Bayonne last time I saw her. Why?" Nina removes the pressure from his crotch and says, "'Cause nobody stole heroin from her. She stole it from me. I will give her a quick death, Pожалуйста, and I will make this worth your while." Pожалуйста means please in Russian. Frenchie says, "I don't do that anymore." She blows smoke in his face, then grabs his crotch and says, "Nobody changes. What was your safe word again? When I used the dog collar and the strap on? What was it?" She looks at him for a moment and then says, "Vincent Cassel."
And there's Vincent Cassel. You recognize him?
Yeah, I know who he is. He's one of my favorite French actors. Yeah. Yeah.
I love that guy. I didn't realize he was also. We were talking about. We were referring to the stars, and I think of Eastern
Oh
Promises,
man. Oh
and he's
yes,
in
he
Eastern
is.
Promises,
Yeah.
dude.
He's a bad guy
So
in that.
yeah,
Yeah, he's the Night Fox. I see
I
you have him
love
in here
him.
from Oceans 12 and 13. He was in the
Yes,
first movie I
yes.
remember him in was Brotherhood of the Wolf. He was in that.
Yeah, see, I put that. I didn't put that there because I didn't even think about you knowing that movie. Thank you. I've seen
I
that
saw
movie
it in
too.
the
Yes,
theater actually.
really,
Yeah.
dude, you've seen some great movies in the theater. I've missed a bunch of good movies in the theater.
I don't go anymore. This was when I was young and all these movies were coming out.
Right.
So I would generally go like once a week, see
Okay.
something.
Cool.
Yeah.
But he was Gil DeRay in Joan of Arc, that movie by it's a good great Luke Beeson,
Yeah.
the guy that did Fifth Element.
Yeah.
And
I have never seen that Joan of Arc movie.
I've not either. I'm not a huge fan, but do you know who Gil DeRay was?
No.
He's a famously confessed child serial killer.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and in real life, I mean, it's I'm not sure if we are aware of the true number, but it's probably close to 100, if not more.
Okay.
So interesting, just historical
Crazy.
fact about Gil DeRay. Yeah, crazy, nasty crap. So, okay. But he was a friend of Joan of Arc before the later confessed child serial killing business.
It's a messy business.
So, yeah.
Mm-hmm. She reaches up and grabs his face with one hand. She says, "You are like rabid little doggy, but loyal to whoever holds this chain. Before William Butcher, it was me. Before me, it was your daddy. But you always heal, Sergey."
Wow.
Frenchie says, "Not Sergey, Serge. And that was a long time ago. Who I am now is someone who works for the CIA, Nina. So unless you want the full weight of the government up your I'm leaving." She says, "We both have had bigger things than the government up our Frenchie scoots back and stands up, then begins walking out. She says, "Just think about my offer. Go on, scamper away, little doggy." Frenchie exits the deli. What is it with Frenchie liking these women that can destroy him? They're scary, man.
I know. I guess it just takes that to get his respect. But once you have him on your side, I mean, and we see that later on too. I didn't really see it until something that comes up with him and Kamiko. See the leash. You kind of saw it earlier on. He says, "Well, where do you think you're going?" I didn't clear it. Did I need to clear it with your secretary that you're going on this kind of thing? It's like I call, you jump. He doesn't say that to him.
Right.
He doesn't even say that to Huey. And he does that to Frenchie, though, because Frenchie in the comics, all I know from the comics that Frenchie loves Monsieur Chacotere.
I wonder where that relationship originated.
I'm curious. I'll dig a little deeper into that.
Okay. Another uncomfortable scene warning. In the Seven Tower, Homelander is hosting Ashley, the Deep, and Cassandra for dinner in his chambers. Homelander says, "Deep, welcome home, brother." Ashley says, "Here, here." They're all doing a
toast?
Yeah, toast. The Deep says, "Oh, thanks, Homelander. This literally means everything to me." Homelander chuckles. Cassandra interjects, "To us." The Deep corrects course and says, "To us."
To us.
The catering staff enter with a rolling cart, and Homelander says, "Ah, here we are. Ooh, excellent. Okay, so I took the liberty of ordering for all of us, but I'm pretty sure you're going to love my selection, okay?" He chuckles and thanks the catering staff. The tray is filled with seafood, and the Deep is having trouble with it.
Yeah.
Homelander picks up a lobster and messily cracks it in half, putting the tail on a plate. The Deep says, "Could I just get some bread?" Homelander says, "Come on now. You're back in the big leagues, buddy. Nothing but the best for you." The Deep grunts softly. Homelander puts the plate in front of the Deep with the lobster tail on it. We are treated to a terrible scene of Homelander, Ashley, and Cassandra messily slurping and eating seafood. If you recall, I do not like listening to people eat.
I am the same. We discussed this. I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate that. I hate myself eating. I get wigged out on the stuff I'm chewing on. So, I mean, I have a hard enough time looking at other people chew it as well. It's got, yeah.
And
it's like a Roman orgy.
Yeah.
It's like a Roman orgy almost of slobbering food all over the place.
It's like a Dionysus celebration.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Homelander says, Know who I've been reading up on lately? Dr. Martin Luther King. Well, my relationship with King has deepened of late. He was villainized, persecuted, spoke truth to power, just like me. It's crazy, but we've both been to the mountaintop, and we've seen.
Is that Charlie Manson's mountaintop? Yeah. When I go to the mountaintop, I say it. It gets done.
And if it don't get done, I'll move on it. And that's the last thing you want to see. Were you quoting Merry Christmas, Charlie Manson from South Park?
Yeah, which is a quote from him in real life. Too.
Oh,
there
man.
we go. I love, but yes, it's a double. We got a triple entendre with that one. Nice. Triple score.
Yep. Yep.
Mountaintop. How many points?
How many points is it? Homelander says, we've both been to the mountaintop, and we've seen the promised land. I showed people the real me, and they loved me for it. He laughs, then continues, I mean, they loved me. If only I'd known that sooner. There's always been so many things I want to do, and now I can do them all, finally. And no one can stop me. Nobody. Free at last. Free at last. He raises his fists and shakes them to emphasize this last statement. Ashley is watching, and she looks scared. A server enters, and Homelander says, oh, excellent. Deep, that's for you, big guy. The Deep asks me. Homelander thanks the server, then walks up behind the Deep and puts his hands on his shoulders. He says, wonderful. Chef's specialty. It's a South Korean delicacy. Homelander lifts the lid on the tray to reveal a live octopus. The Deep says, holy shit, it's Timothy. Oh my God, that's Timothy. He's my friend. I can't eat him. I'm not going to eat him. I can't. This is something straight out of Hannibal. It's horrible.
This is almost worse because I'm like you with the food gross out stuff gets me pretty easy because I'm just disgusted with it. And and what's funny, I don't know if you know this, but in the X-ray, Amazon's X-ray, it said something about the fact that this scene is nominated for, I forgot, whatever award that Emmy, I guess, or whatever's for TV. But the other thing that I dug really hard on this one, and this is what I was going to shout out to any of our listeners. Hey, if this scene reminds me from some horror movie, and I don't know why, it reminds me something out of Rosemary's Baby, something. I don't know why, and I can't put my finger on what it is. If anyone can think of it, like I said, I dug deep. Reach out to us at contact@horsefrogproductions.com. See if you had the same reaction that I did, if you felt like it reminded you or if they were trying to remind you of something in particular, because I couldn't find any references. I dug hard.
Let me ask you this. The movie Hannibal, the scene where they have Ray Liotta at the end and he's kind of drugged up, and then Hannibal opens his skull and cooks his brain in front of him.
Is it like that, or is it closer to the TV Hannibal, which is also really disturbing? You saw the television show, right? We love the show.
I don't think I got that far in the show. I think I watched up to that season. I remember that character being introduced.
It's what's funny. The show ends odd, but for the most part, it was good. But it was just kind of But it was it got a little too artsy there. But yeah, there's a lot of references. I feel like it, but I was surprised that from what I saw that there was not any quick off the top of their heads. Oh, this is straight out of. This is straight out of. This is straight out. It's like no, it's just they were highly commended by PETA for not using real fish. It's actually CGI'd, and if that's CGI, that's some beautiful CGI.
All right, I got one other idea, and then we can move on.
Okay.
By Glapthar's Hammer. You know what I'm talking about? Galaxy Quest. Alan Rickman. Oh, okay. Well,
I need to. I did not realize that Alan Rickman was in it. Yeah. I should watch it just on that alone because I love Alan Rickman.
Okay, watch it and then come back to me because if you haven't seen it, you couldn't be reminded of it. But there's a similar.
I'll watch it with my lady.
It's funny.
Okay, I'm sure she'll watch. I'm sure she'd be something. She'd be like, "Why are we watching this?" Because it's like because I have homework, and you might like this more than so. You might like it. So
does she not like Star Trek kind of comedies?
Oh, no, she likes stuff more comedy stuff than I do.
Okay,
she's one that I haven't seen Spaceballs. The only Brooks film I've seen is I'm sorry, I've seen a couple, but the only Brooks film I truly love is Young Frankenstein, because Frankenstein is one of my favorite horror movies.
Mm-hmm.
So I truly love Young Frankenstein because it's, it's about, but it's Brooks. I love him as a person, but a lot of his stuff is just, I like my stuff so much more dry. I grew up with parents who watch so much BBC stuff.
Okay.
I like it kind of dry.
Yeah.
So when it gets too in your face, I use them like, I'm tuning out.
Okay.
I don't need it spelled out for me.
Okay.
So,
yep.
There you go.
All right. Well, I guess we'll have to see if anybody knows if it's not outside of the ones we already mentioned. Yeah. Okay.
It may not be anything. It may just be me. It shows you what I've been watching. So,
okay.
The only thing there was a Sam Raimi movie that it's one of his later movies that it's his movie called Drag Me to Hell, which is a PG-13 horror jump scare movie, and it involves a lot of food.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the only thing I can kind of think of is that, but that doesn't, but there you go. Move along.
Okay.
Move along, son.
Okay. Homelander says, "Oh yes, you can, Deep." After the Deep says he can't eat Timothy, and again, Homelander stands behind the Deep and puts his hand on his shoulders. The Deep says, "No, I'm not gonna." Homelander says, "Timothy is delicious." Homelander gives the Deep's shoulders a squeeze, then sits back down. The Deep says he's begging for his life. He has kids. Cassandra types something in her phone and sets the phone down. The Deep again says he has kids. He receives a message on his phone. In all caps, it says, "Eat the octopus." It's from Cassandra. Wow, some help she is.
I had gone back, and then I did bring this up already, but about Starlight, her comment about Starlight, and then something else jumped up about who's in control in this relationship. And then the other thing is, the thing that jumped into my mind is that, do you think that she asked Homelander to have him eat that thing in particular because he was looking at her, at Timothy, while he was with her?
I don't think she noticed. But if she did, that is scary.
I will say something here later on. I'm going to re-bring up. I've told you. I mentioned it earlier. It's coming later.
Okay.
I'll refer to her again.
Okay. So. The Deep looks at her as if betrayed. She raises an eyebrow to prod him on. Ashley is silent, watching the whole thing. Homelander says, "Hey, Deep." The Deep asks, "What?" Homelander says, "Eat Timothy." The Deep gulps, then with a shaky hand uses some chopsticks to pick Timothy up. He says, "I'm so sorry." Cassandra has a bit of a grin on her face. This is what creeped me out. She's smiling right here.
Yes.
The Deep puts Timothy in his mouth, and he says, he's praying. And you know what's weird is, I don't know if they did this on purpose, but as the Deep's picking him up and as he's putting him in his mouth, like the tentacles are kind of caressing his face and his hand. Did you notice that?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. It's...
I don't know if he's like saying goodbye.
I don't know.
Yeah.
It's like he's maybe begging with him. Maybe that's how he's playing with it, because unfortunately the Deep can feel these things.
Yeah. The Deep bites down and ink explodes out of his mouth. Ashley gags. The Deep somehow manages to shovel all of Timothy's body into his mouth, and he swallows the whole thing. Homelander watches with a smile and says, "Wasn't that delicious?" The Deep takes a deep breath and laughs, then almost starts crying. This is absolutely horrible. I know it's supposed to be funny, but I didn't enjoy it. It's terrible. I don't know. A lot of the stuff with the Deep is supposed to be like comedic relief, right? Yeah,
but I feel like this, like I said, again, I got like, it's close to like Rosemary Baby's vibes. There was something really odd with that. And I mean, but, like I was bad mouthing Drag Me to Hell because it's food-based horror. I'm not a big fan, but Raimi, I do love. Everything else. Your Evil Dead trilogy, along with Ash's versus Evil Dead, is like an Ash Williams hexology, is it not? I've been dying to use hexology.
After the Scorcher movie series.
Yes. After you brought up hexology, it's like I've been dying to trying to just shoehorn that in there hardcore. So there you go.
So what would the Fast and the Furious be? They're up to 9 movies?
Like 9 or something.
I think they're going to have at least one more. So it'll be a decology?
A decology, yeah.
Okay.
Is it a nonology now?
Yeah. Is that
That's what I
9?
was thinking.
I
It's
think
a
so.
90
Yeah.
I thought, yeah.
Yeah. After this scene, I thought Homelander is going to be an absolute terror for the rest of this season.
Oh my word. And he's going to have, and he's got the deep to pick on, which he likes picking on the deep more than he likes picking on the A train.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The deep is his punching boy most of the time. Yeah.
Yes.
Frenchie is sitting at his desk in the Flatiron building. He has a box of nicotine patches and another of nicotine gum on his desk. He's chewing gum. He's trying to open one of the patches and he's getting frustrated. He gets it open and applies it next to 2 other patches that are already applied to him.
I am an ex-smoker and I quit through patches, but dude, one, when you first put it on, it's kind of like, whoa, it's kind of overwhelming. I can't imagine taking a bunch of them at once.
Yeah, 3 plus the gum.
It's got to be pretty intense, man.
Yeah. He hears a door open and Kimiko enters. She walks to her desk, sits in her chair, and starts nervously rocking back and forth. After a moment, she signs, "You should have seen him today." Frenchie asks, "Monsieur Charcuterie?" She signs, "How do you work for a man like that?" Frenchie stands up and says, "You work for him too." She signs, "I'm only here because you are." She gets up and walks up to him. "But let's just leave. We can go to Marseille." Frenchie smiles and says, "Wouldn't that be nice, huh?"
I like that idea.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of them two running off together.
Yeah. Huey, and Butcher walk in. Doesn't say a word, walks straight to his desk, picks up a folder, and walks back out. Butcher addresses Frenchie and says, "All right, let's have it. Where the you been all day?" Frenchie says, "I was detained by little Nina." Kimiko signs, "Who's that?" Butcher says, "Little Nina? And what does that Russian slag want with you?" That word gets me every time. Frenchie says, "It's a long story." Butcher says, "Hang about." He thinks for a moment and says, "This is a gold mine, Frenchie. Set up a meeting with you, me, and little Nina." Frenchie says, No. This is a very bad idea." Butcher says, "No, Frenchie. It's a very good idea. Go on, get on the phone, give her a call right now." Frenchie looks at Kimiko and she looks back with an expression that is indicating she expects him to stand up for himself. After a moment, Frenchie says, "Oui, monsieur." Kimiko seems disappointed with Frenchie's response. Frenchie asks, "And what are we doing this for?" Butcher says, "'Cause, my son, we're going to Russia." Butcher pats Frenchie on the back of his neck.
Yeah, like I said, I like the idea of the Frenchie Kimiko thing kind of happening there and how you see how much of a tight grip Butcher has on, and I didn't really realize it. I feel like they're accentuating it after little Nina pointed it out in here. I think they want us to really see that. And back to the slag comment, one of the reasons I was always familiar with it, there's a group I like, King Crimson, and there was a reference to somebody's son being, or his mother being a gin shop slag. And you're like, oh, okay. So yeah. You think of Peaky Blinders. You think of those ladies on Peaky Blinders. Those, that's what I'm thinking.
Okay. Yeah. Starlight is sitting in her trailer. There's a knock on the door. It's Supersonic. He says, "Hey, do you have a sec?" She says, "Hey, yeah, come in." He says, "Thanks. So I went to talk to the producers to tell them that I had a family emergency and I have to bow out." She says, "Good. That's really good." Supersonic says, "But, when I got there, I told them I was thrilled to join the team." Starlight stands up and says, "No, Alex, that's a mistake." He says, "I was in rehab. Would have killed my mother for some oxy. Manager bailed on me, Vought, everyone, but you didn't leave. So do you really think I'm going to bail on you now? I'm an ass, but I'm not that much of an ass." She asks, "Are you sure?" He nods and says, "Someone's got to have your back."
Is it just me or now? Because now I definitely do not trust him.
Why is that?
Well, he's telling her that as when somebody tells you, "Oh, I got your back," I feel like now I'm wondering if he's a mole, if he's like there to keep an eye on Starlight.
I didn't take it that way, but I have a tendency to look at people and take what they say at face value because I don't bullshit. So I guess I assume people don't.
Well, see, my thing is I do too, but the reveal of the drug addict behavior from him and nothing. Hey, dude, I'm not knocking. I am a past druggie myself. I mean, I myself was a long time drug enthusiast. So this is not said to inflame and enthuse and make people angry at us.
Mhm.
This is said for a purpose to either A, be a red herring, or B, he's a traitor or a mole.
Mm.
And I don't know why, but it hit me real hard. I kind of liked him until something about that was like, I don't like that at all. I think, and maybe music might have played something. There might have been something musical I might have missed that was playing on me on that too.
Okay. Well, we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah.
Butcher is looking out the window in the office. It's nighttime. Butcher says, "Come on then. Let's hear it. I'm a monster for what I'd done to the kid." Huey's standing next to him. Huey says, "No. The others don't get it. But I do. The gloves are off. If there's anything that I've learned." Butcher suddenly turns and vomits green slime all over Huey's face and the front of his shirt. Butcher is gagging. Huey is stunned into silence. After a moment, he yells, "What the?" It surprised me, but it was hilarious.
It did me too. It caught me completely by surprise. I love it.
Yeah. We are taken to the taping of American Hero. Homelander says, "Well, this has been quite a long road for all of you. You've shown us the best of what heroes can be." Starlight says, "The first of the 2 selections and the newest member of the 7 is Supersonic." We hear one of his songs playing. "You can be my favorite girl and you can rock my world. I've never felt like this, baby. Rock my kiss. Got such a crush on you." Thankfully, that's all I can hear.
Right. Amen. I may even give a hallelujah with that one, yes. That is actually transliteration from praise the Lord. So yes.
Okay. Yep. Supersonic steps up and gives Starlight a hug, then shakes Homelander's hand. Homelander says, "Welcome." Supersonic says, "Thank you, sir." Homelander says, "Amigo, el honor es todo mío, hermano." This translates to, "Friend, the honor is all mine, brother." Homelander pats him on the shoulder and Supersonic smiles. Homelander claps and says, "Well, this is it. The final new member of the 7 is Lord of the 7 Seas, the Deep." He turns with a flourish and points behind him. Now, this entrance by the Deep is hilarious. The Deep has his back to him. The lights illuminate him. He does this epic turn to his right, and he looks dead into the camera. And he does this little thing with his arm. Then he turns around and starts walking to approach Homelander. Silver Kincaid and Moonshadow both look like they have been betrayed. The Deep laughs. Homelander says, "Get up here, you." The Deep says, "All right." Homelander says, "Welcome back." They embrace each other and exchange pleasantries. The Deep shakes Supersonic's hand, then gives him a hug and congratulates him.
Am I the only one that has noticed this? I don't think I've brought this up before, but the Deep says "sir" to Homelander. Ashley doesn't say "sir" usually, even to Mr. Edgar. So is he the only one throwing around the sirs, and it's always just a Homelander?
Ashley has said "sir."
Has she? Okay.
Yeah,
I thought she has, but is it always constant, or is it just when she's intimidated?
It's when she's intimidated, I think.
Okay.
The one time I know for sure she said it was when she was pleading to have a word with him.
Oh yes.
When he was the girls get it on. See,
so, grovel. Yes.
Yeah.
It's in a grovel mode. She'll say "sir."
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very well.
Homelander addresses the final 2 contestants, saying, "All right, well, unfortunately, it won't be either of you 2. I'm sure you understand. You just can't put a price on experience." Homelander puts his hand on the Deep's shoulder as he says this. Starlight says, "Please hang up your capes and go." Homelander says, "Now, Deep, I got to say, I am, well, frankly, I'm moved and inspired that Starlight here has chosen to forgive you." Starlight says, "I accept your apology, Deep. You deserve a second chance." The Deep says, "Thank you, Starlight. Looks like we've all grown." Homelander says, "Just to be clear, it wasn't my idea to bring you back, Buster. Not at all. Starlight here insisted on it. But you keep your distance, pal, because, well..." He laughs and puts his arm around her and says, "She's my girl now." Starlight is not sure what's happening. She laughs softly. Homelander says, "Sorry, I can't keep it a secret anymore." He's kind of leaning towards Starlight as he says this, almost like he's lowered his voice a little bit. He says, "It's time we let the world know. Starlight and I are in love. Now he's talking to the camera again. Hashtag Homelight. Seth yells, cut, incredible. Homelander says, that plays, man. Seth exclaims, oh my God, that plays like hell. Homelander says, that was perfect. Yeah. Seth says, people are gonna love it. Seth is laughing, incredible, yes. Supersonic has a suspicious look on his face. He looks over at Starlight. The audio begins to get washed out by a high-pitched noise. Seth tells Starlight, okay, that was perfect. But Starlight, I need you to be not so shocked. Starlight nods. She looks like she's zoned out. Homelander says, all right, well, let's go again. The audio clears up and Ashley says, Starlight, we good? Starlight takes a deep breath and looks at Supersonic, then says, yeah, let's do it again. They all spring into action and Homelander is smiling and says, yeah, one more. Great. He's chuffed that she agreed to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Seth says, take it from your line, Homelander. Homelander tells him, you got it. The bell rings. Homelander leans over and whispers to Starlight, that's a girl. It sounds like he's patting her on the butt when he's saying it.
That's what I thought too.
Yeah. Seth says, and action. Homelander whispers, I just can't keep it a secret anymore. Starlight acts happy and smiles. Homelander says, come on. It's time we let the world know. Starlight looks at him and nods, saying, Homelander says, yeah. He raises his voice and says, everybody, Starlight and I are in love. He chuckles and says, hashtag Homelight. She reaches up to his face and turns him so he's facing her. Then she kisses him. Ashley, Evan, and Seth all have their mouths agape. Baby One More Time starts playing. As they're kissing, Starlight reaches around her back and is clutching her fist as hard as she possibly can.
Yeah, on that little minor Hauer effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The great thing, are you reminded of a story from Reservoir Dogs?
No, I don't.
Talk about you remember him telling the story about the joke of the story about the cops in the restroom. Tim Roth is telling the story.
Yeah.
And all that. And it's like, and then the guy that's running the thing, the old fella, Larry something, I can't remember what his last name is, but says he just dove right in and dove right into it when he realized you hit when you had no option. She just dove right in, man.
Mm-hmm.
She dove right. It's hurting her, but she jumped right in.
Yeah, she did.
So,
yep. And I was just thinking, the show must go on.
Yes, it must. That's exactly it.
And that's how the episode ended. Yeah. Do you have any standout
there's
moments?
A lot I like. I like anything with Ryan, the Kamiko Ryan stuff. Them getting to kind of agree that it's not all fantastic. Having powers is costly. It's cost us a great deal. I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. They needed each other in that moment when they were talking to each other.
Yeah, I agree. Very good.
I really loved seeing MM's happiness when he saw the team again. That was probably the bright spot of the episode for me.
I love him and Frenchie are apparently back to where they were when we saw the flashback with Lamplighter, where they were talking about this is Monique, and they talk about, I'm going to do the party for you. It's like when they were close then. It seems like we're back to that.
Yeah, MM's forgiven him because he understands what happened to Frenchie.
It's cool.
Back in the day. Yeah.
The whole speech that Homelander telling Starlight about basically, I'll just go kill everybody until I'm feared. It's better to be feared than, I would rather be loved than feared, but hey, that's a really horrifying thought. And I kind of want to see it happen.
That'd be dark.
I want to see something happen. Yeah. I'm not necessarily maybe a man, but I'd like to see him do something. I'd like to see him act like when he thought about killing that crowd of spectators. And that one thing he was daydreaming that one episode last season with the Victoria Newman thing. So, yeah.
That whole speech is an amazing setup for a villain.
Yes, it is. And all of that stuff with the Mallory and Team Payback flashback stuff was great. I loved it all. And it was just, I like history and comic stuff for some reason. And when you get a little insight into people, into some things, I kind of like it. And they did it well. And it was very, like I said, it was pretty mean and also kind of funny at the same time. So They could buy it, especially with your nice instantaneous meat chunks. Did you write that down yet? Have you written that
down? I did not, but I'm going to write it down whenever I edit
and
it.
also at the dinner with the Deep, and I keep referring to Cassandra, and what's up with her, dude? She's way more ambitious than I realized. And I did say earlier when we were first introduced to Cassandra, isn't she the one I mentioned, murder-suicide?
Yeah, that was her story. The beautiful, the skeletons were hugging each other after 600 years or whatever it was.
Yeah, there you go. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, red flags from the beginning.
Hey, Homelander had his eyes set on that other, I'm sorry, the Deep had his eyes set on that other girl who was really ready to have a good time.
A woman should be submissive to her, man.
Something like that. Yeah.
She was drugged up or something, man. But the Deep was like, I want her.
Yeah.
That
was the one.
Yeah. Now, Homelander comparing himself to MLK Jr. Shows just how he views himself. And I really think this was an episode of him self-actualizing, really realizing what he's about.
Did we just have our Lord Vader scene here?
Which one?
Is he? Well, where he was like, he's no longer whatever he went by before. He is now completely dark side. It's all out in the open. I mean, the public doesn't know it, but in the behind closed doors, we know that Homelander is holding the world hostage.
Mm-hmm.
So like, wow. And Starlight jumping in with that kiss. Her and Huey just diving in, knowing what they have to do. It's wild.
Yeah, she really went all in on playing that as soon as she accepted that she had to do it. I guess all that training with her mom.
It was all that early Jedi stuff, dude. They trained her. Jedi beauty pageant stuff. And one more quick aside. I don't know if we were talking about Star Wars earlier, but the Alec Guinness, I think why people were fascinated with him as Obi-Wan. It's the first time we saw anyone do Jedi mind stuff on people. And it just, dude, when you tell people that stuff, it's like, what? You just told that guy, these aren't the droids you're looking for. And they said it. These aren't the droids you're looking for. So it's like, we loved him. I think that's why we loved Obi-Wan so much.
Okay.
Great episode, dude. Loved it. Do
you have any final thoughts?
Love seeing Homelander's dark side path. I'm interested to see where it goes. And also the reveal with Irving / Black Noir. That was intriguing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll see how that plays out.
Very good, man.
Yeah, because all that conjecture for nothing at this point for me.
It's absolutely not going to play out the way I expected it to at all. So I mean, like I said, it's completely wrong from what I know. So cool.
Okay. All right, man. Good job today. We thank you all for joining us today.
Again, we really like to thank you for taking the time to be with us, and we've had a really great time talking about the topic today.
If you would like to support our show, you can find us at horsefrogproductions.com, where you can find our Patreon link. Depending on the platform you're listening from, it may also be in the episode description.
And if you'd like to contact us through email, it's at contact@horsefrogproductions.com.